All right, welcome to MazzaMedia. I am Mark, and we are live here on YouTube this afternoon. It is Sunday, February 1st, 2026. It's been a very cold week out there. Extremely cold, very cold. Jeno's in the house. What's going on, Jeno? One of our good mods here. Granny Debbie's in the house. What's going on? Hope you guys are doing good today. It is Sunday. It's the Sunday between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. I'm ready to go for the Super Bowl next week. I cannot wait. Chicken wings are all bought. They're in the freezer, and I'll be ready to go next week with that. So I'm ready for the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. I know Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a Patriots fan as well. And, I want to see the Patriots deliver a Super Bowl to New England, but it'd be great for Kelsey to see a Patriots Super Bowl victory as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are live, another fundraiser, the 10th fundraiser ever for Kelsey Fitzsimmons here on MazzaMedia. Last week, I was on Lauren Katie's fundraiser, and we, Lauren, I should say, helped get Kelsey over the $70,000 mark on her GiveSendGo page, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're starting off today as the GiveSendGo, as I try to update it, ask me to verify if I'm human or not. We're going to continue to GiveSendGo.com. There we go. The website is currently at $70,518 presently right now. So that's where we stand. And we're going to work to do what we can today to get that dollar value higher throughout today's show. And that will be what we'll be working on today. Additionally, the popcorn store is going on. That's going to expire soon. I believe that's February 3rd at midnight. So essentially today and tomorrow are going to be the final days of that streaming. So we're going to go ahead and of that popcorn fundraiser. So Poppin' Popcorn is that link. Now, a few different things here. We have the links in the description. Those are both there. And there's going to be plenty of links in this description, more than you could ever imagine. There are so many links in this description, you will not believe it, but they go to Kelsey's GiveSendGo. They go to Kelsey's popcorn store. So those are two of the best ways that you can go to those links, donate money. Either way you can is perfectly fine. We're going to get into the popcorn store a little bit more throughout this particular show. Then we're going to continue from there, and that's where we're going to bring it today. So, Conland's in the house. Tracy Violet's in the house. What's going on? Alice in Wonderland. Mark Cunningham. Java Time. A lot of great people here today. So there are a few more links as well. So there's the Facebook group link in there, as well as information on how to write to Kelsey. If you'd like to write to Kelsey, that's the only way that you should communicate with her is through that particular link. And we can take it from there as well. So in terms of communication, so just if you want to write to her, go there, and we can go, that's how you can write to her to communicate with her. Now, what else do we got? We got the GiveSendGo. We got the popcorn fundraiser. We got Kelsey's Amazon Wishlist link is in the description as well. And her Giftful Wishlist link is also in there. Two different announcements that are coming up here is going to be Nacho Night. Nacho Night is tomorrow night. And we got that going on at 6 p.m. at J.J. Grimsby's. That's in Stoneham. And that is J.J. Grimsby and Company Restaurant and Pub. They basically are advertising this as join us for a fun night out and fundraiser for Kelsey. So they actually fundraise at North Shore Nacho Night. They fundraise for Karen Reed. I believe they fundraise for Turtle Boy as well. And they've done a lot of fundraising throughout time, each week. And they've brought in some impressive donations. I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars in single nights through North Shore's Nacho Night. So that's been a great time. Amanda, what's going on? Grammy Kisses, what's going on? Alicia, what's going on? Karen, what's going on? Yeah, they got cookies on the Poppin' Popcorn site. Yeah, so North Shore Nacho Night. They've reached out to me. A few people on Twitter have asking me to promote that. Of course, absolutely, I'm going to promote that. No question about it. North Shore Nacho Night. These people have done a great job. They get together. They have a fun night. they enjoy themselves. They probably get some pizza, nachos, maybe even some chicken wings, and really bring it all together to raise money for a good cause. So it's a pretty nice night out. It's a bit of a ride for me, so I've actually never been to North Shore Nacho Night. Monday nights at 6, or Monday night at any time, just not going to usually work for me, so I've never been able to make it out there, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to. As much as I'd like to join North Shore Nacho Night and have a fun night out. So it's a pretty big haul for a Monday night. If it was a Friday or Saturday, I'd be able to swing it, but Monday nights are a tough night, of course, just because it's the start of the work week and it's an hour. But that doesn't mean you can't go to it if you're not more local. If you are local to Stoneham, Massachusetts, head out there. Head to JJ Grimsby and Company's Restaurant and Pub and have a fun night. Hang out with some great people. Now, we got some other information here. Super Bowl squares are being conducted right now. This is being done through the Facebook group. The link to the Facebook group is in the description as well. And what they're doing right now is Super Bowl squares. This is going to basically be a deadline of February 7th, and it's $30 per square. So in that description in this video, you're going to see information on how to join that. Half of the money, I believe this is how they distribute the winnings. So it's $30 per square. Half of the money raised will go to Kelsey. Half of it will be distributed to the winners. That's how they do it. And then in the description, there's going to be information on the Google Drive docs, and then where you can send your Venmo to. So you get a Venmo at Meredith Spencer. And it looks like she puts in quotes there, FKF for Free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And there's also a live board. So you can pick your Google documents. Go to the Google documents and see what squares are available, which ones are not. And the first of the two links in that Super Bowl squares category or a section in the description actually will show you what the rules are, where to send your money, how to get counted basically, so you can donate. So yeah, and again in the description, the GiveSendGo Defense Fund, that's the primary way you can donate money to Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Kelsey Fitzsimmons Popcorn Fundraiser, that link's in the chat. 50% of your purchases go to Kelsey. Then you get the Amazon wish list, the Giftful. You have ways to write to Kelsey. P.O. Box 16, Reading, Massachusetts, 01867. And then you have a Facebook group link as well there. And then, of course, as you know, the Nacho Night is tomorrow, JJ Grimsby's, 6 p.m. And that's JJ Grimsby and Company's Restaurant and Pub. And then, of course, the Super Bowl squares. See the description for more information on that. So there's a lot of ways you can help out Kelsey here. And I think what's been great is this is kind of really going in the direction of Karen Reed, which is raising awareness, raising money, doing what we can do to raise finances for her and help her out as much as possible as we continue on here and fighting for justice, because that's exactly what this is all about. This is a fight for justice. And again, I believe that nothing changes in our society unless we do something about it. We the people, right? I guess that's basically what our country is built on. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. It's the same thing when you have Kelsey Fitzsimmons going through what she's going through. The number one way you can help her out is by donating and assisting her financially, which is the absolute biggest thing we can do. We got some video to go over tonight. We're having some few guests are going to be showing up on this program later in the show. So we're going to have Lauren Katie with us today, who's backstage right now. She's getting ready in just a moment. I'm going to give her a couple extra seconds here to settle in. And then Britt Happens. This show doesn't happen without Britt Happens. And then Claudia King will be joining us as well today on this program. Maybe somebody else may be joining us. We shall see. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to roll. And ready to do this fundraiser, which is now underway. Amy Boston's in the house. What's going on? Hope you're doing well today. Darcy's here. Hope you're doing good. Nunya Business is here today. Seize the Day is there. Free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Miss Jess is in the house as well. Hope she's doing good today. Erin says, Nacho Night is great. People raising money for great things. Absolutely. Good to go. All right. So now, one of our stars of the show today successfully raised over $1,000 for Kelsey Fitzsimmons last Friday. Not this past Friday, the week before that, and helped Kelsey's defense fund, GiveSendGo, go over the $70,000 mark. Joining the show right now is private investigator Lauren Bellucci. How are you today?
Hi, Mazza. How are you guys?
Everybody's doing good. Looks like everybody's fired up. Everybody's ready for the Super Bowl, and everybody's ready to help out Kelsey Fitzsimmons today. That's a fact.
Perfect.
Looks like we get some of our first donations just coming in as well, so that's good. Continue to donate, folks. The GiveSendGo's in the link. So, how did it feel to have your first fundraiser for Kelsey recently?
It was awesome. I mean, honestly, everyone showed up, and I think a lot was because of you and you promoting it. So thank you again. And we were able to raise a good little chunk. So I was thrilled. And anytime that we can get out more eyes and ears to Kelsey's case, and then to raise money on top of that, it was a good day. So I had a great time doing it, and we did what we came for. So it turned out really well.
Absolutely. It was great. And then Claudia King will be joining us later today, who was on your show as well.
Yes, she will. They had a last minute showing on their house. So if she's a few minutes late, that's why, but she will be here.
Excellent. Thank you for coordinating that as well. I know you had her on your show, on your fundraiser. She was a great contributor to the fundraiser, just bringing a real police aspect to it. And I'm going to look forward to kind of going over that with her throughout this show, as well as we're going to be talking about that video, the security cam footage that was just released. But here's the thing, is that there's obviously more footage from other rooms in that house. And I have had it on good word that information was validated, that apparently there was a camera upstairs not too far from where the shooting took place.
Amazing. And that doesn't surprise me. Kelsey's a smart girl. And thank God for that, because North Andover didn't do their part in having their body cameras. So sometimes it takes a civilian, or in this case, a law enforcement agent, to have those things set up, and you're going to have to rely on that. So I think that's going to be a really big part of her case.
Absolutely. February 9th is the next hearing for Kelsey. Will you be able to make that?
I am in Florida, so probably not, but I don't want to say that I am, but I really would love to go up for trial. But I don't think I'll be able to make the February 9th one. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'm going to make it the February 9th. I'm actually may be able to make it there. It just depends on, I've been trying to look up the actual time that starts. And I don't know if anybody in the chat knows it, but I could not find it. I would say it's the later in that day that it starts, the higher percentage chance I'm going to have to actually be there. So I'm monitoring the situation right now. If I'm actually going to be able to make my first appearance at a hearing and sit in on that, which would be great. I'd love to, sit in on that and kind of see get to see the situation in court. It's kind of like when I first went to go see Karen in person for the court case, for the trial. It's kind of surreal when you're first there, just to kind of see not only Karen, but her attorneys, the judge, other people that are involved as well. So I've been doing all this coverage. I've been doing all these fundraisers. I've been all these shows, but I haven't actually been there at a hearing. It's just, unfortunately, it's tough to. There was one hearing I'm like, I should go. And then it was one of those hearings that literally I would have drove an hour and a half each way for, and then the hearing was over in 2 minutes. And I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, some of them are very short. So I maybe it was a good thing you weren't able to make those. But when you do get to go, I think it'll be extra special that you're there, and it'll be great. And I'm sure it'll mean a lot to Kelsey as well.
Absolutely, exactly. And I think what's really good for her right now is I think she's absolutely, you can see the positivity in her. The most recent time she was in court, there's a lot more optimism there. I think obviously it's just like Karen Reed, it's a situation where Kelsey and Karen are very strong. They present themselves strongly and optimistically, but it takes a lot to, even when I did this show today, about an hour ago, I'm kind of sitting there and I'm like, I'm feeling tired today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a 3-hour fundraiser. Then after about a half an hour before, the mind starts to go, okay, here we go. By 10 minutes to go, it's like, okay, it's showtime. Here we go. Yeah. It's kind of like that, I'm sure, for them, where it's, it's a lot. It's a lot to get prepared for, get pumped up for, to endure, especially when Kelsey is someone that has looming charges in a trial, ahead of her going into March here. It's obviously going to be nerve-wracking to a degree, but I think that as much as it can be nerve-wracking, she presents herself in a strong light. She looks confident. She looks optimistic. And she's got a great defense team, to say the
She
least.
does. She does. And just kind of to go off your point too, like,
yeah,
I can't even imagine what she has to go through to prep herself to be there. And then you have the added aspect, excuse me, the added aspect of her having trauma. I mean, anybody who was shot and then had their baby ripped away from them, that is a trauma that a lot of people can't even come close to understanding. So there's a whole nother layer there for her in going there and reliving that. And so that's why it's so important that people can come and show up when they can at the courthouse, because I imagine that gives her extra strength. And I can only imagine that that really helps lift her up. And not only that, for trial and all of that, I don't know if Justin's planning on being there, but that is going to be there to strengthen her and let her know that we're behind her.
Yeah. I think that's what's really huge too, is just the level of support, the level of people that are backing her up and kind of showing her, hey, we got your back here. And Karen, and in her particular case, had kind of spoken about that and the level of energy that she got from this whole, from the support, the people out there, the people that are, showing that energy, showing that level of enthusiasm and support. It's something that lifts you up, because this is not something that you want to ever have to do alone. You want to, have that level of support and have people there kind of cheerleading you on. It's like anything, like in sports. I've played in a few sports games where, there's a smaller crowd and it's like, man, it don't feel like that big of a deal. And then when you see that larger crowd, that's when you kind of like, okay, this is great. I feel like more and more enthusiastic about it. And, Auntie Bev over in the Karen Reed trial, she was so bothered by Karen Reed supporters that she actually enacted a buffer zone because she was concerned about the amount of people, that were out there. And that was, again, the impact that we're having is that we were able to get out there, show up, wear our pink shirts. That was a big thing. It was a huge thing. It changed the tone. It changed the dynamic. You, quite frankly, never saw blue shirts out there, other than in between trials. But that's what we're trying to do with Kelsey is kind of really emulate that mold and kind of turn it into exactly what we thought with Karen, which is Karen Reed can be anybody. All of us could potentially be Karen Reed. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is presently right in that same set of circumstances. It comes in different forms. It comes in a different county. It involves a different police department. But at the end of the day, it's a big thing that needs to be, it's got to have that support. It's got to have people backing her up. And we can't let people like Karen or Kelsey, even someone like Sandra Birchmore, whose life was taken from her years ago, the anniversary is today. We just can't let these people face these circumstances by themselves. What are some of your thoughts on that, Lauren?
Yeah, no, I echo what you say. And that's why home field advantage in sports is such a big deal, because it gets the crowd going and pumps them up. And so when you say that about Bev trying to put the buffer zone, no doubt she knew that would take some of the fire behind Karen away. So that's why it's so important for people to come and to support and do that. And this has very much shades of Karen and Karen Reed trial, and just a strong, like, badass woman. And that's exactly what Karen and Kelsey both are. And we know how Karen's case turned out. And so, just like Kelsey said, the truth is going to come out. And when it does, I think it will be very powerful.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think it's definitely where this is heading. I think that the coverage is starting to pick up, quite honestly. I think that the energy is starting to pick up right now, and all of that is definitely starting to pick up more and more. The Facebook group, every day it's like it's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. It's closing in on 8,000 people that are now following that case. And once upon a time, the Karen Reed case, same exact thing. It just grows and grows and grows. Momentum builds, and it continues to go. in a big fashion, which is great news. I'm excited. I'm excited for the level of people supporting her. That's what I'm really excited for. Even the GiveSendGo. I mean, just like Karen started, it always starts slow. Then all of a sudden you just see it build and build. And I was very happy for you this past week again, like I said at the top of the show, just for getting to raise that money, bring that in, and to pivot on that. The fundraiser GiveSendGo link is at the top of the chat, and it's in the description. All donations made during the show will count towards the total amount of money raised. Additionally, the popcorn store is closing in just 2 days. There's $2,019 just before I started this show today that are still needed to hit the goal of $5,000. But we'll continue to push for that as well. So we're pushing along here. We're getting there. And all time for MazzaMedia's fundraisers, we've actually we're close to the $20,000 mark.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know, we're getting there. We're at 19,654 through all 10 fundraisers, and that's a big thing. That's
and
huge.
we're gonna surpass that 20,000 today. I just know it. So
yeah,
and even if you can't donate today, please go share that Facebook group. Like Mazza was talking about, that thing is growing exponentially every day. And that is, there's so many things posted about her case. So like, go and pick your friends that you think would be interested in this case, and share it to them and invite them to join. Because if we can grow that, then the support and the funds and all of that are going to come in even more. So yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I'm just putting a quick little post on X real quick. The Kelsey fundraiser is now underway. Please donate now. I noticed I amplified it a little bit by posting it on X. I think that helps out a little bit because not everybody's able to tune in to YouTube all the time. So I throw it on X, and that's always a big thing too. I'm excited. Like I said, February 9th's coming up. I thought that was a good call by Bradle to make sure they maintain that date and get things, kind of starting to situate and starting to move forward here and starting to prepare their defense and making sure that they're trial ready. And Tim Bradle, I think, is a great attorney. We obviously saw he was in Boston Friday with Mark Betterow defending Aiden Carney. And now, he's also dealing with Kelsey's situation. And defense attorney's life is a big time job. You have more than one client. In this case, we know two of his clients, publicly at least. What are your thoughts on Tim Bradle as an attorney, besides the guy being absolutely awesome? I just got to go off camera for about 10 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I personally love Bradle. He's an advocate for anybody that he represents, and you can tell when he is passionate about something. And so I, for one, am so happy that both Aiden and Kelsey have him to represent them. He knows the law. He is just, what's not to like about Bradle? He's also just a kind man. And so I am very happy that they both have him to advocate in their behalf. And then we know she has Martha Coakley, which is great. The more the merrier. There's so many things that go into trial that a lot of people just don't even realize. And so being able to support Kelsey also kind of supports the attorneys as well. And I think the comments that he made outside of the court when Kelsey was released kind of go to show that. You could tell he was grateful that there was people there supporting his client as well. So our support obviously means something to quite a few people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Lauren. It's exactly right. And well said. I think too, like with Tim Bradle, what I like about him so much is I like the personableness about Tim. He really cares about his clients. He's really, because I think, especially for someone like myself that only, like, I was not a true crimer before I started following the Karen Reed case 2 years, almost 3 years ago now. Really, it's actually, wow, it's been 33 months. Wow. Okay. Wow. I didn't realize it's been that long. That's a long time now. I was not a true crimer. I always looked at attorneys as the people that were on television, like, call us now. If you need an injury attorney, you can call us now. Or, attorneys always having like a bad rap. And, the attorneys you'd see in movies, I was like a Few Good Men for me, or, for the most part, you'd see the prosecutors like in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
So it's identical, like you'd see kind of these attorneys always be, portrayed in the movies, or maybe it was the O.J. Simpson case, or, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, other cases I might have followed over my life, but I wasn't someone that was like a true crimer. I'd come on my shows week after week, talk about the Patriots, talk about movie news. Like there's a new Avengers movie coming out, or there's a new Batman movie coming, talk about sports, UFC fight, whatever. That was kind of what I talked about. And all of a sudden I'm falling a Karen Reed case, and I'm like, okay, let's see how these attorney guys are. They're probably unpersonable. They probably don't really care about Karen. They're probably just like, yes, we are attorneys at law and we represent her and bill her. And I'm like, David Daddy's a pretty nice guy. Alan Jackson's a really nice guy. Eliza Little is a really nice woman. Then you see people like Vetero come along and Tim Bradle representing Turtle Boy. And it's like, oh, these people are actually really all like great people. I just never really knew any attorneys, other than the big wig ones that would be in public cases you'd see on mainstream news when other cases were going on. But I was like, oh, these people are like real, like I could hang out with these guys. Like me and Robert Alesti could throw on boxing gloves and hit the punching bag to get you could,
yes,
the people you want to have a beer and chicken wings with, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's too, like, there obviously are some trials where the attorneys are so dry and it's like it doesn't engage anyone in their case, but having such strong, fierce advocates that are like personable really makes a difference. And I remember like the first case I saw, because I have always been a true crime person since Casey Anthony. That was like my first one that I was.
I remember that one.
Yes. And I remember being like, wait, I can watch what's actually going on in the courtroom. Like, whoa. Right. So since I realized that, like, I remember like the first court case that I realized like someone was being tried and they were actually innocent. Yeah. Boy, like to see the advocacy in the attorneys fight for that. And we all got to see it with Karen Reed. But it does do something to you because you're like, this is a defense attorney's dream, is to actually represent someone who is truly innocent. And, unfortunately, there are cases like that people are tried every day that are innocent. And that is the stuff that just breathes fire into the attorneys and to people watching. Yeah.
It is. I think that's what it is too. Like I see people in the comments, all the time. As soon as you mention one of the attorneys, they love them, and it's not necessarily like a fanboy or fangirl type deal. It's like they admire the people. They admire what they do. They admire how they help. They admire that, these attorneys are fighting for these people in these particular cases and going out there and swinging the baseball bat and helping them out in a big way. And I think that's really huge.
It's huge. It is huge. And I mean, that just the advocacy, people tuned in to just watch their lawyering, like other attorneys tuned in to just watch their lawyering. It is really like an art. And so when you have attorneys like that, and then to have them believe in the case and it come out like that is just really something to watch. And it is enjoyable. And the jury tunes in. That's the last thing you want. You don't want the jury bored. And so I think the jury was never bored in Karen's case. And with Bradle as an advocate too, the jury is going to be very tuned in and probably waiting on every word that he says.
Yeah. Another point too is that I think when you talk about the jury like you just did there, and especially looking ahead to a trial here, is that having an attorney that can be personable, relatable, likable. And this is not a matter of having an attorney that goes in there and tries to shine bright and, hey, jury, hope you guys are doing awesome today. My client's innocent, and I hope you guys agree. It's not like that. It's about, these are the facts of the case. This is what's gone on. But doing it in a way that's not basically Adam Lally, the prosecutor from the first Karen Reed trial, where it's like boring. You're talking, you're not making strong arguments. You're constantly monotone like he was. You want someone with some personality. And when you see people respond to, whether it's Karen's attorneys, Kelsey's attorneys, Aiden's attorneys, whomever, you see that people can engage in a conversation. Even when Bradle's outside of the courtroom, he's talking, he's taking questions from Justice Served, other folks as well. And he's answering those questions. It's a back and forth exchange. It's vibrant. It's not necessarily overly enthusiastic. I think it would say it's just about right, where it's serious, but it's engaging. I think that really goes a long way. And you know, having the personality, not only that needs to be done before a jury, but also in a public sense, is that you need to have, you know, essentially every case, as we've learned, even with Karen Reed, it's a jury of your peers. It's people that have a reaction and a response to people that are on camera. And if people that are tuning in on the news see these interviews with someone like Bradel, and Bradel has a very nice presentability to him. He presents himself well. It goes a long way too, because it's not only about the courtroom, it's also the outside of the courtroom matters. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, it is. It's, you know, when you're an attorney, you carry that with you wherever you go, not only in the courtroom. I think you make a great point. And Bradel is just kind of one of those really nice guys, you know, wherever he is. And I think that the jury, like, I don't know, I always say this, like pets and kids, they can
Mhm.
really kind of just sense how people are. So like when someone is a genuine person,
Mhm.
like people understand it and they gravitate towards them, and people can pick up when you're not being genuine.
Yeah,
So I think the jury kind of reads that on the both sides of the, you know, attorneys. And
yeah.
so it's not a matter of like popularity, but in a way
Mhm.
you want to come off looking like a genuine person to the jury. And
Right.
I've seen so many trials where it was very off-putting. One of the attorneys, whether, you know, which side it was, can
Mhm.
really turn a jury off, and I don't think Kelsey has anything to worry because she has such amazing counsel that it is gonna really kind of draw the jury in.
Yeah, I think that's definitely huge too. Is that I think there's going to be a very captivating story to tell here, and like any other trial, it's you know, there has to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and up until this point, it's just the cop saying what she did, and that's similar to what happened in the Karen Reed case. Well, these are what the cops are saying that she did. Um, you know, that's that's something that is extremely. I got a little thrown off by the sometimes I read the comments and something catches my eye and it makes me think, and I'm like, I get thrown off my statement. Um, yeah, but proof beyond a reasonable doubt still exists, and you're looking at a case here that is a total he said, she said, and there's really no. I mean, the only evidence that a shooting took place is that Kelsey was shot. Right? There is no
Yes.
evidence of who drew a weapon first, who pointed a weapon at themselves or at another person in that room. Like, there's nothing that's there. The only evidence that there's something that happened is that Noonan shot Kelsey. That's the only evidence that is actually, in my opinion, evidence that can be actually presented. This whole, you know, debate about what one side says versus the other is pretty controversial, because there'd have to be a motive. What would be Kelsey's motive to shoot Noonan
Zero.
and drew a gun on him? And how would he have reacted so quickly to have fired a shot before she got a shot off? You know, if she had pulled out her firearm and aimed it at him, that would be before. I mean, she would have reacted. I mean, the thing is, to me, is if she put the firearm to her head, there would be time to him to react and aim his weapon. Kelsey, don't do it, right? But if she had pulled the weapon out on him, it would be, Kelsey, oh my God, what are you doing? Don't shoot me. Put the firearm down. Don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. It wouldn't be don't do it. Don't do it means don't kill yourself. Don't do it. That's how I interpret that. But he wouldn't have time if she had just quick drawn her firearm, pointed it at him, and whatever, you know, then what else? I mean, how would he have had time to put his firearm out? Because if she already had the firearm pointed at him, he's got no time to draw, because if he does, she's going to shoot him. So that's a huge argument right there. Because, so you mean to tell me she pulled her firearm out on you? And that's why, another reason why they came up with the whole gun jamming story, because they couldn't justify it. They had to justify it. Well, because they knew if they said, well, she pulled a firearm on me, then I pulled the firearm out on her, and then she shot, you know, well, how'd you pull the firearm? Well, you see, she went to fire it, but it jammed. That's why they kind of went with that argument, in my opinion, was that they had to add that something extra. And it's that something extra that only makes me believe Kelsey more.
So I'll just throw something out there too. Like I know the chat will correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that Kelsey also says that the gun jammed in her in her report of the night. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. However,
I'll say this: I don't recall that being. I don't know for a fact, but I don't recall that being said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. If that is true, that means she had time to pull the trigger. Which means if she was pointing at Noonan, he would have immediately fired back at her. He wouldn't have given he wouldn't have time to give commands.
Right.
So that again doesn't line up with the timeline of everything.
Yeah.
So if that's his point, it doesn't add up with the timeline of everything.
Right.
And going back to the jury, the grand jury didn't believe Noonan. There was all kinds of holes in his story and they didn't get the indictment on it. Mm-hmm. So he's already like a lot of people already in that grand jury didn't believe his testimony. Yeah. So he's got a real big problem. So yeah, I just think that whole thing, there was so many things that were wrong with it. And if in fact the gun did not jam, then he had, either way, he had time. He had time to try to de-escalate the situation. That's what they're trained for. This is not, this isn't some regular civilian having this situation in their house. These are the cops. They are trained for things exactly like this, de-escalation. And the fact that they didn't use any of that, in fact, they perpetuated things that would escalate the situation, like Justin being there, is just disgusting. It just is.
It is. And I think that's, I think really it's like football. It's all between the lines. It's all between, end zone to end zone, sideline to sideline. It's all what happened in that room is the biggest picture here. And I think you make a great point too about him actually having the time to say, Kelsey, don't do it, as opposed to, well, she jammed. It goes back. If the firearm jammed, if she had put it to her head, there's a reasonable amount of time where he could pull his firearm out too. That much we know. There's no question about it. But I just think that this is how I felt about the Karen Reed case, and that's how I felt about this case as well. Is I don't necessarily think it's like a big, I don't think that basically they went in there like a hit squad. I don't think, and this is my personal opinion about the Karen Reed case, I don't think that John O'Keefe was lulled into that house to basically be battered and taken down. It's just my thought. I just think that there was a set of circumstances that unfolded where there was a level of hostility between John and another individual or more that got out of control, escalated, went too far, and then they had to, try to control the narrative from there up to and including tampering, relocating his body, tampering with the evidence, all that stuff. That's how I truly feel about the Karen Reed case. About this case, I feel the same way. I feel like they went in there to serve an RO, and then they did not do the proper job. They did not locate the firearm to begin with. That was botched part of the operation right off the bat. Then it goes to the bedroom, and they have a one-on-one situation between Kelsey and Noonan, and then the unexpected happens. She pulls out a firearm. She puts it to her head. Noonan doesn't handle the situation correctly. He either goes into a panic or he overreacts to the situation in a sense where he thinks she's going to make a move that maybe she's not. I mean, it could have been she put the firearm to her head. Maybe she held it there for 10, 15 seconds. Her arm got a little tired and she went to readjust it. And in that moment, he said, oh, my God. And he just starts to open fire. Misses one, makes the other. So if that's what happened, because I always have more than one theory, and I always never believe every theory I have to a level beyond I could be wrong, because my theories could always be wrong. They could be off. I don't know all the facts. I wasn't there. But if this theory happened, if the theory that I just presented happened to be, say, for example, the exact situation that unfolded, It would be another situation where it was a situation where they had to correct or change the narrative after the fact. Well, maybe she didn't pull a firearm on herself. Maybe it's like that movie Street Kings with Forrest Whitaker and Keanu Reeves. I'm probably one of 3 people that's ever seen that movie
Yeah,
or
I haven't
remembers
seen
it.
that one.
Okay. Forrest Whitaker, there's a shootout that happens in a convenience store, and Keanu Reeves just takes these guys right out. And then Forrest Whitaker, as his boss, says, maybe the convenience store clerk forgot to turn the recording tape on this morning, and he takes the VHS tape. He changes the scene after the fact to change the narrative of what happened, because once this gets back, to the police station, the investigators, internal affairs, whoever's involved, or it gets to the court level, they can control what ends up coming from it by controlling the scene of the crime or the scene of the incident. And that's what happened with Karen Reed. And that's what I believe happened with Kelsey, was that they turned it from, well, maybe she didn't put the firearm on herself. Maybe we'll just tell everybody that she tried to turn the firearm on you, and then you opened fire. Because you know what? I'm sure these officers, and I'm not trying to humanize them, but a lot of times what they try to do is there's like a code of silence. There's that blue wall, essentially, or whatever they do, where they all just kind of back each other up. It's like they're trying to justify it. Well, if she never pulled the firearm on herself, you would have never jumped to conclusions, and you would have never shot her. And it's like that brotherhood. And I think that's what happened here. There was a level of brotherhood that took place that was favoring to Noonan, but not favoring to Kelsey. Far the opposite. I just want to defer to you for a few moments just to get some, thoughts in here before I don't want to take all the talking time. Sorry.
No. I mean, I think you're exactly right. We've seen it in other cases. I think people have seen it firsthand in their own life experiences. Also, remember, there was no body cam footage, so it's not like we would know what was being said amongst the officers after the shooting, because hopefully there was some of that, conversation that is picked up on Kelsey's home surveillance and camera. I don't know if there's audio, but if in a normal situation, when a cop has a body cam, it's going to be picked up on it. And a lot of times there's things said that is very telling and gets the cop in trouble, but there wasn't that here. So if they were trying to spin the narrative in that house amongst those 3 cops that were there, it could have easily been done. And we wouldn't necessarily know about it. But I think in this case, it was him. It was either him or her. Somebody was going to get in trouble, and it wasn't going to be Noonan, because he was the one that was of sound mind and not bleeding out on the floor. So he could come up with a story that helped suit his narrative. And so he had to come up with something to save his own butt, and in my opinion. And I don't necessarily think it was on purpose that he did this, but there has been many occasions that cops see things. We know he saw things with Kelsey on that one horrible call when they went a year ago. And I believe that they didn't really provide them a whole lot of mental health help. And when you see things like that on a regular basis, it does mess with your mind. So, again, seeing Kelsey, knowing Kelsey on a personal level, he shouldn't have been there in that capacity anyway. But I think that even more so makes it inappropriate that he was the one that was there to deliver that, and then got himself in that situation. And he overreacted, probably because he had some kind of emotional connection to the actual person. It was his friend. And he did what he did, whether on accident, whether on overreaction. And then he had to come up with a story to save his own skin, in my opinion.
Let me I'd like to delve into this further. What is your personal theory? Because I liked what you had to say there. It provided a theory different than the one that keeps lingering in my head, which is that you feel potentially that there might be a set of circumstances where Noonan opened fire, then told his fellow officers she tried to fire upon him, which would isolate the theory I have from me thinking it was a joint effort of the North Andover Police Department to a isolated Noonan told the North Andover Police Department, and then they took it from there. I think both theories are in play.
Yeah.
Which one is your more dominant one? Do you think the one where Noonan just kind of made it up firsthand?
I do, because it's one
Mm.
person. It was
Yeah.
him and Kelsey in the room.
Mm.
Kelsey was bleeding out. She was concerned with her life.
Mm.
Um, and if it wasn't for God and those surgeons, she wouldn't be with us today.
Yeah.
So he is the one that can then rationally think and try to think of something as to why he shot his weapon.
Mm.
And so if he were to go out and, you know, be like, "Oh my goodness," and he had time to think of what to say to the other officers, because you know they're going to be like, "What happened?"
Right.
That's what, in my opinion, he had to put out that narrative. What other scenario would justify shooting her
Yeah.
other than her pulling the gun out on him? That's the
Right.
only thing that would make that okay.
Right.
And so I just don't even think he thought it was me or her, and people are gonna be in it for their own selfish gain, and I think the officers in the house maybe he didn't even tell them, "Get your story straight." Maybe he just said, "This is what happened, this is what happened." I don't know, and I can't wait to find out.
Mm. I know. I know. I would love to find out what's happening because the cross examination is going to be extremely interesting. I think of all people, Noonan's going to be the cross examination. That's obviously going to be he's going to be the one we all sit down for and is like, okay, this is the guy that's going to be on the stand for the longest amount of time. This is going to be where Bradle's going to go in with the hardest questions, the in-depth questions. The gotcha questions are going to be huge, I think, as well. I think that's really going to be huge. My concern always is the judge. You saw Beverly Canoni playing referee all throughout both trials. She dictated what questions could not be asked, and then a lot of times she agree with Lally or Hank Brennan when they objected, which I thought was extremely frustrating. So that's always the primary concern. But I'd have to imagine Bradle's got a whole host of questions that they want to ask. But what's favorable is a lot of times we don't know all the facts. Kelsey Fitzsimmons knows all the facts. Officer Noonan knows all the facts. And of the two people on this planet, there's only two people in that room. They know all the facts. They know, we're going to start to see this unfold. Kelsey said when she was originally released on September 8th, the truth is going to come out, which means that whatever we're theorizing right now, or whatever we think, is only scratching the surface of what really lies beneath. As we saw with the Karen Reed case, and still to this day, even after 2 trials, we're still learning things from Karen Reed that we didn't know going into both of those trials, and we could only know what more Kelsey has in store that she's presented to her defense team, that her defense team is going to start to lay out in court and start to ask during these cross examinations. And I think it's going to be a thorough crossing of quite a few members of that police department as well, that could really lead to a lot of your theories, which is when, did Noonan happen to tell you what happened? Did you guys ever have a conversation about what happened? I'll defer to you, Lauren.
Exactly, and we know that's fair game on cross-examination. That is fair game, and that is something that terrifies me also. I think we're
Yeah.
all a little traumatized by the Bev situation with Karen's, and knowing the outrageousness of this judge, Kathleen. So I think that is very scary. However, things like that, even if she tries to pull the same kind of garbage that Bev did, questions like that are going to go so far, and then they're going to have like somewhat of like digital evidence too, right? With their phones, their text messages and things like that of that afternoon are going to be so huge, and even the days after. The text messages of Justin, was there coordination and communication between these officers and Justin, or people in his family? All of that is going to be huge, and I know for myself, I am so excited to see Bradle cross someone. We've seen him argue motions and things like that, but I think we're all in for a treat to watch that cross examination by Bradle.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be huge. Like I said, I just think that because it all comes down to that room. I think another thing that's going to be asked, and this is just my theory, is about the gun jam, the firearm jamming, that whole thing. And really the next question is if the firearm jam, like you said, because that's kind of I hate to use the term smoking gun, but it is, that really begs the next question. If she went to shoot you and her firearm jammed and you're within 10 feet of her, you're significantly taller than her, you're significantly stronger than her, you're only 10 feet away, is it possible that maybe you could have, while she was trying to fix that so-called jam, maybe tackle her to the ground or at least wrestle her in a standing up position that would restrain her till other officers could arrive? You know, that's a very big question too, because it goes to the fact that ultimately there's two situations in which Kelsey would not be an active threat to them. Number one, for him, she puts the firearm to her own head. She would not be a threat to him. She would be a threat to herself.
Correct.
Number two, if the firearm jams, she is not an active shooting threat to Noonan any longer. The only time she would be an active threat is if she did pull the firearm on him and the gun so-called jam. That's it. That's the only time he would have been justified in saying I could shoot. But the problem is if he's going to say it jammed, well, what do you mean you open fire then? So to me, it tells me that it almost defeats, even if Kelsey's theory plays in court. Let's just say the only theory is Kelsey went to go shoot herself. That doesn't make him look good if he shoots her. The same can be said if the gun jams. What do you mean the gun jammed? And then you shot her. That to me still puts this back in the same position, even if it was a suicide attempt, as it was with the gun jam. It's still a bad look for him, but they had to say it jammed, because if she pulls the fire, I'll just use my finger as an example. If she points first, he has no time to point back. So the only theory they had left was it had to have jammed, but that jamming story still looks horrible, because if it did, because I think they did say, even in that document I read, that she went to go try to unjam it.
Yes.
Why the hell did you shoot her then?
Yes. The jam is a problem for them. They're going to have to explain that. It's a problem either way. And I don't think he thought that one all the way through.
No.
Because for the reasons that you're stating, it's a problem. If it jammed, if she pulled it to her own head, because you have to take it down, it takes a second and you have to re-rack it. It's a problem then, because that gave him an opportunity to literally jump on her, de-escalate that, get the gun away from her. Like you said, he's much larger. They were not in an open field. Like it's a tinier room. It's an enclosed space. It's also a problem for them if she had the gun pointed at Noonan, because if it jammed and it was pointed at him, he's shooting. That's what every law enforcement agent is trained to do. If a gun is pointed at you, you shoot. Not only you shoot, but you're going to empty that magazine. And he would have had a right to do so. And neither of those things happened. So the jam is a really big problem either way.
Yeah, it is. And then, so we say tackle her, try to physically restrain her. Well, there were and it just came in on the chat here. Granny Debbie just actually said it herself. I was literally getting ready to transition to this. Taser guns, pepper spray, taser gun probably would have been the more practical situation in that, in that sense, to use a taser gun to try to just put someone down in a non-lethal way, but also restrict them. You can pepper spray somebody, but they could still actually fire. They probably wouldn't be accurate, but they could still fire. But I just think that, Leah, we're going to get to that soon. We're going to talk about the video later in this program here. No question about it. But yeah, I mean, why not use a taser gun? There was a situation where there was an officer, they were restraining somebody in a vehicle, and it was in the back seat. I think it was an SUV, and they opened, a couple of years ago this happened. I can't remember where, but I just remember watching the video. And they had opened up the driver's side door.
Yes.
And they were trying to get somebody out. And so she had her firearm and her taser gun basically side by side on her belt. She pulled her firearm and then blasted the guy when she was claimed to be going for her taser. Now, it could have just been a simple mistake. We're not here to judge it, but it was a situation that didn't look good.
Mm-mm.
But in that situation, non-lethal force was able to be the primary means of handling that situation. It's the same thing here with Kelsey. If she has a gun jam, then she's no longer a lethal threat in that moment, which means that you have options at your disposal to handle the situation without force. And this one gets me back to my main point. It's all of this conversation that we've been having for the last 10, 15, 20 minutes here that leads me back to believing that what he is saying and what they're claiming as a police department is an all-out lie.
No.
Because it would just tell me what probably happened is she put the firearm to her own head.
Mm-hmm.
He panicked or overreacted, whichever, shot, missed the first one or second one, hit the second one or whichever. One of them missed, one of them hit, in whichever order. And then all of a sudden we got a massive problem here. Near fatal situation, quite frankly, which was out of hand.
Also, how do you miss at
Right.
10 feet? Again, that doesn't make sense either. Like, even as a PI, I have to go and I have to qualify at the range and I have to pass firearms exams every single year. Cops are 10 times more, it's a huge thing. Their firearms training is essential and they're 10 times more a better shot than I am. So how do you miss that? That is also, that's a problem for me as well. There's just so many things here that don't add up. And, it's a problem for Noonan. That it's not a problem for Kelsey. It's a problem for him. He's going to have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, it is. And that's where the cross-examination gets to it. I also think that this cross-examination of this officer will be the absolute apex of establishing reasonable doubt. That's where this is also why I think this is going to be such a short trial. Obviously, it only projected at this time to last 3 days, and I think the big thing is that it's really just confined to really one thing, and that's Noonan and her. And I think that this whole I legitimately, this is just my opinion, I legitimately think this whole trial could be conducted off a cross and a direct examination of this officer alone. That's just my opinion. Obviously, they're going to want to have some witnesses come in and try to just educate the jury as much as possible, obviously. But I just think that there's a lot of ways in which, an isolated, having essentially Noonan on the stand, I think so. It's going to tell you pretty much. I think a lot of the jury is just going to basically be sold or whatever their opinion is going to be formulated right then and there, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it will go down to whether they believe him or not. It'll be that simple. And whether or not Kelsey takes the stand or not, people judge credibility. And we know the first grand jury didn't believe him, or she would have been indicted for murder or attempted murder. So yeah, I mean, they absolutely, it will hang on his testimony, but I think that there's a lot of other witnesses that they could bring in, like procedural witnesses. Like I'll say it again, if they could get someone like Easter to come in and explain the correct procedure, right? That you secure the weapon, all of these things that they didn't do, the jury, they're just regular people. They don't necessarily know the procedure of cops. And that's why it was absolutely infuriating that Bev wouldn't allow Easter's testimony in Karen's case, because to just assume that the jury knew all of these things should have been handled different is absolutely asinine. And so if they can get a witness like that to come in and just basically show how inappropriate and how things were just handled horribly from the start. Yes, like Noonan's testimony is still going to be credible, but that will be like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just don't think there's enough, you should never be overconfident. You know what I mean? Yeah. You should never be overconfident, because I always felt with Karen, this woman is never going to see the inside of a prison cell. This is never going to happen. They're never going to convict her. You had people all over Twitter that told told you the opposite. Oh, no, you're wrong. She's going to jail. Karen did this. And then I see the same thing on X from time to time with people coming at me about Kelsey. It happens every, it's not anywhere near what it was with Karen, obviously, because those people just were fanatical about thinking Karen was guilty. But, with Kelsey, it's the same thing sometimes. There's those people that just, like, I had someone come at me just the other day on Twitter, and it's like, Mazza, you're making a big deal out of her opening up the door and the officer walking right in. And I'm like, you're not understanding the lead up to that. You're not understanding that it's there's not enough time. We're going to talk about this later in the show. There's not enough time to establish why they're there. And that brings it back to false pretenses. Did they say, hey, we're here to talk to you. Can you let us in? I mean, that's a problem for me. If they later say, hey, well, the reason why we're here now, we're inside your home, is that, it's kind of goes back to when you allow an officer to, Kelsey's watching, ladies and gentlemen. Kelsey is here. Kelsey, how you doing?
Kelsey.
All right. Kelsey,
we love you, girl.
In the house. All right. Glad she's doing well. This fight, it's coming along, but we're praying that it's going to be over for you really soon. You walk out innocent, and you can move on to the next phases of your life. And, we're just hoping for the best for you and doing what we can to help you out here today on a Sunday afternoon and a cold day in February, but Patriots are going to win, and so are you, Kelsey. And for any reason the Patriots lose, you're still going to win. So it doesn't matter. No matter what happens in the Super Bowl, you're still going to win. There's one thing we can guarantee: you're going to win. We know you're going to win, and your attorneys are going to do a great job for you, Martha Coakley and Tim Brady. We're happy. And the Purple Hearts are all over the chat right now. Granny Debbie says, hi, Kelsey. Glad you're here. Love you guys, says Kelsey will win. Cynthia Lynch says, hey, Kelsey. Rhonda says hello with the hearts. U.S. Lily. Allison, U.S. Lily. So many people are repeating it, but that's okay.
What's awesome, too, is like I recognize some of these names, and they're out of the country. So, like, Kelsey's support goes, nationwide, which is incredible.
That's awesome. Mr. Monk's understudy says, free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Ellen Mark Cunningham says, Kelsey, stay strong. Sherry Davis, Romney and MA, Rhonda. Lisa says, Kelsey, does the pups need another bag of food yet? Laura says hello with the hearts. Truth Seeker, Buzzsaw. U.S. Lily says, hi, Kelsey, you are here. We are here for you. Excellent. It's great. Yeah, we love Kelsey, and we're happy to raise money for you in this fight and continue to help you. I think the best way we can help you is to raise awareness, raise funds, continue to. Postpartum depression is not a crime. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Stay strong, Lori says. Conland, Grammy kisses. Awesome. So much going on right now. We've raised at least $310 so far. Let's see if we got any more updates. Let's see. Not yet. We're still at 310, folks. Still plenty of time to raise money for Kelsey. You can also go to the Pop and Popcorn store as well. Presently, $2,019 left to go to hit the goal there. So the Pop and Popcorn store is open for 2 more days. Please consider going there and buying yourself some popcorn and do what you can to help out Kelsey. Also, spread awareness. Spread the links, share the links, share the word. Do everything you can to get the message out there and, help out Kelsey any way you can. That would be absolutely fantastic if you could do that. We appreciate what you guys are doing out there for her, and continue to raise the word and the awareness. Do we know if Claudia is going to be joining us soon, or do we want to?
I will text her and see.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was holding off the videos today just to have her on with us when we go through them, but. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll go through the popcorn store a little bit and share that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Greatly appreciate that.
And I will be right back. My pipes froze last night.
And,
I had my sink on, and it just started. It unfroze. Now my water is coming out. So 1 second. I'll be right back.
Sure, no problem. All right, technical difficulties. All right, all the best, Lauren. All right, excellent. All right, no worries there. All right, so we got We got the popcorn store here today. We have this going on. Justice for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Please help us reach our goal. Thank you for your support. 2 days left to go. Looks like midnight on the 3rd is going to be the last day for this. And you just essentially, once you get to the website, you're going to select your state. And we got a special guest here. Lori Mullen is here. Hi, Lori. You might be on mute. And I can hear you now.
Hey, how are you doing, Mazza?
I'm doing very good. Hope you're doing good. And you've been doing awesome, doing great, raising some money for Kelsey today. She's actually tuning in if you want to say hello to Kelsey.
Hey, Kelsey, how you doing, honey?
So, Lori, if you just want to give the audience just a little bit about your background, I want to thank you too. Just thank you so much for joining. I know you had limited time today.
Oh, no, just heading back from Vermont. It's really, nice and warm up there.
That's good.
Not. Anyway.
No chance. No chance. Vermont's always colder.
Yeah. So I'm a family law attorney. I mean, I do some civil litigation stuff, but primarily I'm a family law attorney. I work in the Bristol County area. I have a couple of offices, one in Fall River and one in Rehoboth, which most people have never heard of, but it's the town next door to Karen Reed and Dighton, Rehoboth. It's a regional district. And, I've been doing this for 37 years. And I know a lot about family law. I've seen a lot of different situations. I've seen situations similar to Kelsey's. I can't say I've ever seen this exact situation. And God forbid, I don't think we should ever have to see a situation like this again. But that's really what sparked my interest in this. I mean, I've been watching the Karen Reed and Aiden's case and whatnot, and kind of familiar with all those things. And obviously Sandra Birchmore too, which I have a great interest in. But when Kelsey's case came to my attention, it just was so unique because it had all of the different elements, including the family law situation, which really spoke to me on so many levels in terms of just things that were done so wrong. And I've had situations myself where I really do feel like the restraining order law, the 209A law in Massachusetts is a mess. We should have at least protocols in place that we don't have. And it's been a long time. I mean, this isn't, these 209A restraining orders, that they can be very helpful. I mean, there are abusive situations where people need to go in and get these emergency orders. However, they also can be weaponized. And I've seen that many, many times. And there should be better standards for things like, especially like in Kelsey's case, when you have a custodial parent who has a child that's with her, and you're going to remove that child literally from her arms.
Right.
You don't show up with, 3 armed police officers and the actual person who's obtained the restraining order. That's odd to me. I mean, the whole point of the restraining order is it's supposed to provide a distance between the person, the recipient of the restraining order, and the person you're getting it against, and for him to show up at the house, very strange. None of that should have happened. Yeah.
It's outrageous. And, I always think about, attorneys that see this happening, such as yourself, that, practice law. You've been very vocal on X about it. And you just sit there and say, this is unbelievable. This is not following protocol at all. This is not the proper procedure. And this is, in my opinion, a completely avoidable situation. Even if that restraining order had taken its course, the level of combat that essentially partook in that house that day could have been avoided by securing firearms first and foremost. And to me, just seems like it was a totally avoidable situation.
Right. Especially where they knew they were going into fellow law enforcement household. None of it made sense. None of it made sense. But from a practical standpoint, in terms of just hi, Lauren, in terms of the overall, practice on the service of the 209A restraining orders, I like to say that this way they went about it with Kelsey is unique, but it really isn't. And that's a broader problem that needs to really be addressed. I think, we should have DCF workers that are associated just with the court system. These emergencies come in and these judges have to hear this, and they have to make, split second decisions on safety and things like that. And, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to know who to believe. And having like an arm of the DCF right there in court that could facilitate some of that and service some of that and actually be present during the service of that, that would have helped things tremendously. I mean, we all saw the video footage, and I'm sorry if you've already gone over some of this.
That's okay.
The door came
no, go for it.
So the video footage of Kelsey answering the door there, calm as can be, holding her little Caden in her arms, and didn't seem like she was having any kind of mental breakdown or anything at that point. She seemed completely calm to me from what I could tell. And, she wasn't expecting that to happen. And just the aggressiveness of the three men who she works with and whatnot coming in that door, and her instinct is to protect her baby. Anybody's would be. That would be the normal thing to want to be doing. It's just there were a lot of things that went wrong, and it's really unfortunate. And so now she has this mess, and she has 2 cases going on. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on, because sometimes I am vocal on X, and sometimes I say things that people maybe don't want to hear so much. And that's okay. I get it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it's not an easy fix, So at this point, like it's things have already happened and things have already gone a certain way. And you can't just now say, give that baby back to Kelsey. I mean, everybody would love that. It shouldn't be where it's at right now. That's the whole point. But it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on Kelsey. It's a lot of pressure on her parents. She needs to get through this criminal case, and she needs the funds to do it, people. I mean, she is up against it. Once the criminal case is all resolved, she's going to really have to go hard and heavy on that probate and family court case to start regaining her rights to her child back. You don't just, by the same token that they shouldn't have just taken Caden away from her and ripped him out of her arms, the court's not going to just say, now here you go, you get him back. She will get him back. She will have her time with Caden, and that will happen. And it's so painful for her. I know how hard it is. You have these milestones coming up. I even feel sad saying this with Kelsey watching. Kelsey, turn away. But she's got this baby's first birthday coming up. She had the baptism, all of these big milestones that break her heart and her parents' hearts too. Their grandparents that love that baby. And it's really, really difficult. What I really hope, though, I hope Justin's watching. That's what I hope. I hope Justin is watching, because Justin, you can start somewhere, and how you can really help your child out is to allow him to visit with his grandparents who love him, who are not any harm to him. And that you had them watching your baby, before all this happened. They're the same people that they were before. And he has the right. He can do that. He can do that because he's the custodial parent at this point. And he can allow that parenting time or the grandparent visitation time with Kelsey's parents. And I really hope that he can show that he's a human being and that he cares about his child, because you can't have too many people loving your child. That's not possible, and they just want to be with him and spend time with him and see him grow too. And eventually it's going to happen, because they're going to have time with him, because Kelsey's going to have time with him. And this isn't going to go on forever. So the more he does now will help his child in the future. It will help his child reintegrate into this family. He's coming up on 1-year-old, and babies start to get shy at that point and whatnot. So there is going to be a need to be a reintegration. And if he could facilitate that at this point, that would be great. The one thing I did want to mention, we have a lot of key dates coming up. I know you mentioned some of them. earlier, Maz, on my ride home. There's the discovery compliance on the criminal case, which is February 9th. I think that was supposed to be the trial date. And now they made that a discovery compliance. And then the trial's actually scheduled for March 12th. There's a probate and family court review on February 25th. So, and that's at 8:30 at Essex Probate. There's a lot of stuff coming up in February, and it's just so, heartbreakingly ironic that it's also Caden's birthday month. He'll turn 1 on February 16th, I believe. So, Kelsey really needs everybody's support, the emotional support and the financial support. And the more we can do for her in that way, that's where we can help and bringing attention to her case for sure.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you so much, and so thankful you have the time to come on today as well. Like I said, I've seen you on X, and you've been a very powerful voice for this, and I think it's really important. What do you think would be the? Do you think that given the RO that was filed and what the police are alleging against her, do you think that would have any effect on Kelsey's fight for joint custody or anything like that, or fighting that RO, or any level of interference with her getting her kid back? Would there be any level of?
Yeah. The tough thing is, although we have access to a lot of documents, I can't access the affidavit that Justin filed to get the RO. It may be floating out there because someone leaked it or something like that. But so normally, just in terms of the process, and if I'm boring you, just say, shut up, Mullen. I'm used to that too. As the judges say, you can have a seat now, Attorney Mullen. But if in terms of the process, what happens is when you go in on these emergency orders, likely this is what happened. Justin went in, went downstairs with the clerk, said, I need a restraining order. There's forms that you fill out. And one of the forms that you fill out is this affidavit where he describes in detail to the judge why he feels that he is in imminent fear of bodily harm, or, and for him and the child. And again, the fear has to be imminent. You can't be like, 6 months ago, she said this thing or she did that thing. And I don't know what's on those documents. I don't know if what's on those documents is true. I have no way of knowing. So, and that's something that would have been vetted, obviously, in terms of the return date. So what was happening, just in case people aren't really sure on what the procedure was, that video you see of those police going into Kelsey's home is them assisting. That's kind of a silly word to use now, isn't it? I mean, they did such a great job with that. Them assisting, 3 officers assisting in the service of that RO. And that RO likely had a return date, right? So that the judge could hear the case in full. The judge has to act on one party's statement and make a decision about whether they're going to issue that emergency RO. And we didn't get to the second part of that, which would have been the hearing that Kelsey would have been able to have, where she gets to give her own testimony, and she would have an attorney that could be cross-examining Justin. And then the judge would make a decision relative to the continuation of that restraining order. But then, of course, all hell broke loose, and poor Kelsey was shot and almost killed and ended up in the hospital, and then ended up with these criminal charges that she's had to, fight against. So if ultimately, if we take it to the level of the criminal charges either being dismissed or her being found not guilty, right? Now she's faced with this, still having to go to probate court. It's not going to reverse that, right? So at that point, can she go and have the hearing on the RO? Sure. Can her attorney file a motion to remove the RO? Yes. Honestly, some of those things could happen now, but I'm not the attorney on this case, so I would never, put my judgment in for theirs. She has a really good attorney in the family court case, Julie Hess, who has a lot of experience and knows what she's doing. Obviously, she has Tim Bradle. I know that they're working together, which you have to do, because, Kelsey's Fifth Amendment rights have to be protected as well. So if she goes into family court now and is testifying there, then she's given sworn testimony in that hearing. And I'm not sure if Tim really wants her doing that at this point, but there are going to be 2 levels to it. And I do think that, the approach seems to me to be they're dealing with this criminal matter. hopefully getting the criminal situation. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to come out. And I think Attorney Bradel feels very confident that his client's going to be vindicated. And then at that point, then we go into family court, and it'll start with, hopefully trying to remove or to at least modify that restraining order. I'm sure Kelsey doesn't want to go near Justin anyway, so I'm sure she's fine staying away from him. But modifying that restraining order to allow the parenting time, and then to start, we usually recommend some integration therapy, that kind of thing too. He's very young, so it's difficult. A lot of times we'll have guardian ad litem investigations, which, I've been involved with as an arm of the court to do that too. And I think that might be the way to go here, in terms of a guardian ad litem appointment that would provide recommendations to the court relative to resuming the parenting time. And then ultimately and eventually, hopefully up to, resuming custody of Caden for Kelsey.
Lauren, do you have any questions for Lori?
Lori, I would just like to know, is this the average time that it takes from when someone goes in and files a, one-sided petition to the court to have someone's baby taken from them? Does it normally take over a year to get in front of a judge to tell your side? Because that seems outrageous to me.
Yes. No. And that's kind of what the point is. What happened was that time that she should have been able to get back into court to address that RO got usurped by the criminal charges, and obviously being shot and almost killed and not being able to attend. I don't have access to that actual RO, and usually the return dates on the RO are between 7 and 10 days. So she would have had a hearing within like a week. And the date of that new hearing, which would have been a full evidentiary hearing, would have like his hearing wasn't an evidentiary hearing, right? It was just like, I'm just telling you what I think, and there's nobody here to question me, just almost like a grand jury type of thing. So you're kind of looking at it in the light most favorable to him. And because you want to err on the side of caution and all those things. And if what he's saying is true, then maybe the baby's in harm's way. And I do have a problem with that whole process, but that needs legislation to fix that.
Yeah.
And so we're beyond that. But the papers that she was going to be served with that day when we had the police bombarding into her, porch there, likely, and I can probably say 99% sure, I haven't seen the papers, but I've seen those type of papers many times before, had a return date on it. And that return date would have been within a week, where she was supposed to come back and be heard, and she could have gotten her attorney there and be present and been able to tell her side of the story. And then obviously the judge then has a little bit more information with which to make the decision. I can't remember the name of the judge that actually issued the RO in the probate court, but it was different than the judge that she has, because when you go in on the ROs, you get whoever's there, it's an emergency, you file the emergency. But in the probate and family court, which is a little bit different than you see in the superior court, we have this whole thing of this judge has been assigned now in the superior court. It's kind of unique, right? We have Belezos and in Aiden's case, and they'll Judge Canoni was assigned to Karen's case. That's not generally the situation in superior court, but when you have a case that's high profile like those, they will assign a judge like they've done there. In the probate and family court, we have a single justice system for that right away. So as soon as, yes, Judge Black is the judge on her case now, but not the judge that issued the restraining order. I can't think of his name. It was a male judge. But because he was probably who was there, and there was nothing had been filed yet. It was the next day he had the restraining order. And then it was the next day that he filed his actual complaint for parenting time and support is what we call that complaint. That's the name of the complaint. So that obviously that complaint is what's now pending before Judge Black. But prior to that, he did a restraining order also in the family court. He could have also done it in district court. It is better to be doing it in family court, but he did it in family court and had that issued. And then he went in and filed the other case the next day. And now that case is before Judge Black. And that's the judge that we all saw at the hearing when she was present and when her attorney, Julie Hess, was there. And that will be her judge on that case. And even on like a return on that restraining order, which is still pending. I mean, that's still out there. It just hasn't been scheduled now. So in terms of your question, Lauren, on timing, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because this is one of the things that like people kind of freak out about online. They're like, oh, this long until she sees her baby. Some of these time things are just like they come out of the computer. They're just automatically scheduled. And one of the things on family court cases is once they're filed, and this refers honestly to the grandparent visitation, because this came up when they were like, oh, now she doesn't have a hearing until August. Once the case is filed, then summonses issue, which mean you have to serve the other side with those summonses. And once those summonses are served, they get filed with the court. That then triggers an action by the court, the filing of those summonses back with the court. Otherwise, they're like, this is just a case that's hanging out there that nobody cares about, they haven't done anything with it, so we're not going to worry about it. But once they get that return of service back saying, yes, the defendants were served, then they issue timeline standard dates. A pretrial date is usually, depending on the judge's schedule, is usually 6 to 8 months out from the date of that service. But that does not mean you can't go in and file a motion for temporary orders, and you can't go in and ask the judge for other things in between now and August. You don't have to wait until August. That's just
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's a tracking system that actually does work really well, because back in the day, when it was Little House on the Prairie and I was practicing law, we didn't have a tracking system. So like if you were really bogged down and you had a lot of stuff and you didn't have that client that was a squeaky wheel, a couple of years, like there'd be dust like gathering on your files near your credenza, and you'd be like, what the heck is this one? And you're like, oh shoot, I haven't done anything with this in 2 years. And the court didn't have a way of really tracking it, so they didn't care. But they now have a tracking system that anytime you go to court, there's going to be another date set. So you always, and if you can't make that date, and you've seen this in the other cases, you have to file motions to continue. And then there will be another date set. There's always another date coming up. So that August date is just a pretrial date. It doesn't mean that, Kelsey, like say in March, she's vindicated, her trial's over, she wants to move forward and go full steam ahead on that probate case. She certainly can. Her attorney can file motions. And I'm not suggesting that's what her attorney should do. Her attorney's very, very capable, and her attorney knows that too. So she can definitely go in and do what she needs to do in that case. But I think, it's hard. Can you imagine how overwhelming it is? I have clients, I'm dealing with these cases, and, my clients are all in crisis, right? Obviously, when you do this type of law, it's all very crisis related. Imagine Kelsey. So, she's got this case going on where I've had people that are like basically having almost nervous breakdowns just showing up to probate and family court, and having to participate in a custody case of their child and whatnot. And she's got all this stuff going on. And then she was in jail, and not well. And it's just my heart really breaks for her. And that's really one of the reasons why I got involved in the case. And I've been trying to be supportive of her parents. And really, I really think, Justin should do the right thing in terms of at least allowing. I understand the stuff with the criminal case. I do not understand why he wouldn't allow those grandparents to be part of Caden's life. I don't understand it. From a moral or a legal standpoint, he can totally do it. He has custody. There's no reason why he can't allow that. And it speaks volumes about him as a person. And honestly, he would gain my respect if he reached out or his attorney reached out and tried to, do something like that, and try to set something up. They don't have to do something huge. They don't have to, go meet them somewhere. they want to see their grandson. It's just so heartbreaking. I couldn't even imagine it, honestly.
It's just that's what bothers me about all this too, is just that the way this was all conducted, and the fact that this restraining order, in terms of seizing the child, possession. It's almost like a way to skip a normal custody battle. It's a way to just try to get this as a pivot. It's almost like a pivot step.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I've seen that a lot, even in my practice. I've seen clients be victims of that as well. And that's why I say that's a broader issue, and that does need to be addressed and now, recently they've even broadened the 209A. It used to be, fear of physical harm and imminent and all this other stuff. And now it's like, now they've added in coercive control, which I understand, that these things do happen, but the broader and broader that you make this restraining order statute, the more ability for fraud and for abuse of it. So it's very dangerous. You have to really, really look closely. And when you look at the consequences of it, in this case of a literal infant being torn from his mother's arms, it's insane. It is insane. So with just no social worker, I just don't, it doesn't make any sense, and I've seen that online too. People are argue with me about it and say that's not required. It maybe not required, but I've certainly seen it done. I've asked judges to do it, and they will do it. So I think it's kind of a disconnect to say, and I'm not. Luckily, I don't practice in Essex County because, I've said a lot of things that I think would probably hurt me. But for that judge to not go that second step of saying, okay, I'm issuing this restraining order, and police are going to serve this restraining order on this mom who has this baby in her custody. And I think it's a good idea to, just send those police over there without any support network, any system in place to make sure it's done properly. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about Massachusetts and their laws. Some of them seem a little interesting to me, but in Florida, it's common practice. That's because I used to work for DCF. DCF goes. They're the ones who takes, care and custody. Have a care and custody letter from the court, and they take custody of that child and would transport them to wherever they need to go, whether it's foster care, whether it's a relative. It's not the police. The police may come in to clear the scene and to make sure nothing goes wrong, but that's as far as their job and their, thing stops.
Right. And I think part of it is it's almost like a little bit outdated because there's this built-in assumption that the person who's getting the restraining order served upon them, I'm going out on a limb here. I've been doing this for a long time, so I can say this, is the man. I'm just coming right out and saying it. So there is this assumption. And then there's the secondary assumption of if it's the man, he doesn't have the child. So that wasn't the case here. It was Kelsey and she had the baby with her. So like if it was the reverse thing and she just was afraid of Justin and wanted that restraining order served upon him, and she had the baby, because this is the argument, the Twitter wars I've been getting into. But so if Kelsey was just trying to do a keep away order type of thing, or 209A restraining order saying she was afraid or whatever, no, you wouldn't have needed that level because the baby isn't being taken from his arms, and then he can come into court in a few days and he can tell his side. And then what would probably have happened, because the courts are very cognizant, the probate and family courts very cognizant of the fact that they don't want to separate children from their parents. I mean, I have seen jailhouse visits and things like that, and I'm not saying that should have happened in this case. And the reason why I wouldn't say it should have is because obviously Caden's so small. But, if you had a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or whatever, then certainly you don't want that detachment and then wondering what happened to my parent, but there were a lot of things that went wrong.
I'd just like to welcome Claudia King to MazzaMedia for the first time ever, with 2 first-time appearances. Lori Mullen, attorney, and Claudia King, former law enforcement. And welcome both of you to the program today to discuss this show. Claudia was recently on Common Sense Investigator, which is Lauren Katie's show. I always call her Lauren Katie because that's her Twitter handle. Lauren's show on Twitter. She joined us for that fundraiser where we raised over $1,000 for Kelsey on that night. And what I love about talking about these topics is having an attorney-based guest, a law enforcement, whether present or past guest, to discuss this. Claudia, also you have a website as well, and you frequently appear on Court TV, as does Lauren. So that's excellent stuff. And welcome to the show. And did you have anything you wanted to lead off with in terms of Kelsey news or thoughts or anything like that? You're on mute, I believe, or it's glitching. Let's see. Give it a moment here to just still on mute.
Got me?
Yeah, here you are. Okay, we got you. There you go.
Thank you guys so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be here, and I do have some things to start with. You know, Lauren and I have been chatting over the week, and we've been talking about the video, you know, that recently came out from the initial point where the law enforcement officers went to serve the paperwork on Kelsey. And Lauren and I were talking about some interesting things about that. And I want to first say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, 100%. But Lauren and I were discussing the gloves on one of the officers, you know, that he walked in wearing gloves. And she asked me, is this something that's normal? And, you know, some people do that. Some officers always wear gloves, no matter what situation they're going into. But I would love to know if this particular officer does that on the regular basis. Like, what do we see in other circumstances? Because if he doesn't, then what was the reason of him wearing gloves in this circumstance? Why did he put them on before he walked in the house? Because I feel like, you know, they probably knew where her cameras were. They knew what would be recorded. And for him to come in with gloves on, if he doesn't normally wear gloves, why? What are they planning before walking into that room that he would not want his fingerprints or DNA to be a part of? So I think that's something that I would, you know, really love to know more about in this whole circumstance, because we've already talked about, I don't think these officers were the right ones to be serving this order in the first place. Did they have the right to enter her house? Yes, they did. I have double checked that with Massachusetts law. To serve this particular order, they did have the right to enter her house. But I want to know, did they know where the cameras were? Because I would guess at least one of them, Mr. I'm wearing the gloves, knew where the cameras were. And why? You know, is this his normal protocol, or did he not want to leave his DNA or fingerprints somewhere? Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like, could this have been a hit, you guys? Could this have been a planned attack on Kelsey? I think we need to think about that.
You know, I always look at everything from multiple viewpoints and try to consider all angles. But what bothers me about this, and you know, I've had a lot of blowback on Twitter from people that are not Kelsey supporters, obviously. But it just one of the arguments I made here was someone tried to justify, like, well, maybe he always wears gloves. This is one of my questions I had. Does he always wear gloves? You know, I posted this on Twitter. I remember Lauren had chatted a little bit about that with me too throughout the week. And the big thing that stands out to me the most, it's not that he's wearing gloves, is that he's the only one of the three that's wearing gloves. And he's also the only one of the three that engaged in a situation that became combative with Kelsey. And from a standpoint, it may just be a coincidence, which is why I asked the next question, which was, does he often wear gloves? And people were saying to me, like, well, it's not uncommon for cops to wear gloves. I'm like, totally get it. However, in this particular set of circumstances, he's the only cop of the three wearing gloves, and an incident broke out between them, which is why I thought too, does he often do this? Is it so? Say for example, we find out, like, you know, hey, he always wears gloves. Here's some evidence to prove it. Okay, cool. It's a nothing burger. Get it. But I originally thought these were rubber gloves, and so I looked more in depth at this video and realized they're more tactical. You know, a lot of people are saying in the comments on X they're more tactical looking gloves. So it's like I said, it's not a good image. I noticed a lot of people on X when they first saw this there was a collective like, ooh, kind of reaction on Twitter, because it just, knowing what's going to happen in the next few minutes, then going back and seeing this image, and he's already got gloves on. And like I said, it could be just a coincidence, but it may not be. We don't know, but it's not a good image.
I mean, coincidences are hard to come by, to be honest with you. Like, it's nice to say, but they don't often happen. And I will tell you, and as a female, my hands are a little smaller. I hated wearing gloves because, like, I just couldn't get that tactile feel that I wanted to get when searching, when pulling the trigger, for example. You know, gloves just don't give that tactile feel that you really want. Now, some men will say differently, and they often wear gloves, but yeah, those aren't just rubber gloves. Those are gloves. They might be Kevlar. I had a pair of Kevlar gloves that would help prevent knife attacks, or, you know, at least reduce them on the hands. I just find it odd. And, you know, what you said is amazing, that he was the only one wearing gloves, and
Right.
the only one who ended up firing a shot. I just don't believe in coincidences. And again, I hate to say it, I don't want to be that conspiracy person, but did they have a plan before they ever walked into that door?
Yeah, it's wild. I'll defer to Lauren or Lori to comment next on
Yeah,
this.
so I had two thoughts on this. Like, when I first saw the video, first of all, it made me angry. Like, my blood was boiling. Just seeing them come in the way that they did, so nonchalant. Seeing Kelsey, I feel she already kind of got a little bit protective of Caden, and then you could see the confusion on her face as to what the heck is going on. And it just outraged me. And then as far as the gloves go, like, my first thought was it his like job to secure the firearms that day?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, because it was like, why is he the only one that has them? Was it his job? And then he obviously failed at that. I don't know. Then I've read the affidavit is very hard to find. I was trying to find it to send it to Claudia this week, and I couldn't find it, but I know that Melanie had it on her show, and I think Justice Served. But if you listen to his affidavit, it's cryptic, right? And so, like, he was trying to make it out to be like, if you go and serve her, if you go here, I'm afraid she will shoot you. I'm afraid she will attack you. I'm afraid she will kill the baby. All of these things. And the fear is not even remotely, like, reasonable. But I feel like his whole point was to be very cryptic to the cops, to amp them up almost, if that makes sense. So then does that have something to do with how their mind is kind of going into this situation, thinking that it's going to be some crazy, you know, dangerous situation?
I mean,
Except that they know her.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great point.
And also, right, if that's the information that they had in that affidavit, so you follow her up this, you have her go get the gun, I mean, that doesn't seem to make any sense to me. If you had any fear that she was going to use the gun on you, I don't think you would send her to go get it. But
no, you would say, where are the guns?
Yeah.
And then you would go to those locations. Yeah, you're not going to say, hey, pretty lady, go get me the guns.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, well, I think actually, no, she was going down. She's told them it was in the basement. And
yeah.
But you don't, I mean, I'm not law enforcement, but you know, you don't send her, you don't go with her until they're secured, right? I mean, I would assume that would be what you do. You sit there with her on the couch while somebody goes and finds the guns. And then I think she was going to get clothes and whatnot for the baby. But I mean, I'm not law enforcement, and I would think that would be the protocol that you would, you know, especially if you were faced with an affidavit from someone saying she could shoot you. She could, you know, right. I mean,
100%, because let me tell you guys, the number one goal that I had in every day that I went to work was to come home. Like, end of the story. That is my number one goal. I'm coming home. And so any situation that could be dangerous, you're going to take every possible precaution. So even if it's somebody you know, if you're now reading this stuff of like, oh, she punched me and this happened and she's going to shoot you, you're going to go in even more fragile and ready to react than before. So you're going to say, where are the guns? Let's sit here. Like you said, let's sit here on the couch. Somebody else is going to go find all the weapons. Oh, you want to go pack some clothes? Great. Let's go together. Like, where are the clothes? Let me pull them out of the drawer. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me how this happened. And the other thing, this camera angle that we saw, so it's a very narrow angle. So if people knew that, then did they direct her to this area that was no longer in the camera angle so that it's their word against hers?
Well, Justin knew that house very well because he was living there.
Exactly. So he knew what camera angles were there. He knew what was shown and what wasn't.
I don't think we can understate that enough or overstate that enough. What directions were given from Justin to these officers is going to be telling.
I agree. I mean, it's just sad to me. It's sad that she was taken advantage of, because no matter what, we have to all admit, and I don't care whose side you're on, that sending officers that she knew that day to serve this particular order was 1,000% unprofessional. So she was taken off guard. She was on the defensive immediately. They took advantage of her just from how they handled this from the get-go.
Claudia, I have a question for you. This was something you had addressed right at the top of your appearance here today. My concern about this is this is the live video playing, the footage playing live on the screen right now, or playing in actual play, real time, I guess. You said that the RO itself gave the police the authority to enter the house. Now, my question for you would be, even if it does give them authority to enter the house, wouldn't they need, because he steps right in here. Like, as soon as that door opens, he's just stepping foot in her house. Even though the RO has a stipulation that permits them to enter the house, wouldn't they have to, to some degree, present themselves and what is actually on that paper before? In other words, isn't there a preliminary step, regardless of whether or not it's written on that they would have to just say, hey, we're here, we have a RO, it says we have a right to search the premises. However, in this video here, they're literally just, she opens up this door. Let me just, actually, I'm going to share this tab instead. Let me do this one. Here we go. So this is the highlighted play here. So this is it. She opens up the door. This is a 4-second clip. And she opens up the door at about the 1 second mark. And this officer's stepping foot in that door almost instantaneously. It looks like he's talking a little bit. Is there even with the RO having written on it what it does, is there any procedural concerns here that would stand out to you?
I would say so. And Becca just commented on this. It was an ambush. I 100% agree with that, because yes, they do have the right when they have that particular order, but yeah, they're going to establish some boundaries ahead of time. They're going to come up and say who they are and why they're there. That's why they sent these people that she knew, because they wanted to bypass those steps procedurally, which is incorrect, but they wanted to bypass those steps. They wanted to make her think, these are your friends, co-workers showing up, no big deal, everything's fine, and let them walk into your house. And that's why they did it the way they did it, which is not okay. It's just not okay. It was, Becca, as you said, an ambush. Not cool and procedurally incorrect.
This is a restraining order. She wasn't under arrest. This isn't an arrest warrant,
Correct.
They're just coming to give her this paper and to, explain. They should explain to her what it's about and what they're going to need to do and what's going to happen. She's not under arrest at all at this point, in the video here.
No, and they could have stood in the...
sorry. Yeah, Lori, to your point, this should have been established before they stepped foot in the house, regardless of what that RO said, correct? Yeah. That's exactly what stands out to me. And I had some people contesting me about that on Twitter, but I'm like, no, they should, no matter what the procedure is. I think like you just said it a moment ago, Claudia, and it was perfect, because this is what my thought too is. They came, they were wolves in sheep's clothing. They presented themselves as, hey, we're your pals from the office downtown. And if you look at Kelsey here, it takes the human mind a little bit of time to react to what's going on. And I want you to watch Kelsey right here, right about there. There's that's where it takes the mind, because again, she goes to the door, because the thing about Kelsey too is she's used to being a cop. She's used to these people being her colleagues. She's used to she has a level of trust, a level of bond with all these people, and she sees them there. Oh, these are my fellow cops, and she doesn't at this point think anything of it. And there's a moment right about here where she opens up the door, and there's kind of starting to, right about here, there's that, see how she's looking out of the side? That's the human mind right there, where there's that initial, you're caught off guard. She's just enjoying her day, spending it with her child, not thinking anything's happening. Oh, these guys are here, essentially. Hey, hi, let us come in. Okay. And then right about this moment, right about there, that's where the human mind, the reaction time starts to come in now. And there's that, she kind of looks at them over her right shoulder. It's kind of like, okay, what is this about? Okay, what's going on? But at this point, the ambush has already taken place. They've already gained entry to the house. And she looks over her left shoulder. And now all of a sudden it's, this is a situation now that's going in a completely different direction. But I'd say these are dirty tactics. And I think that's pretty much undisputed by everyone that's probably on this panel and everyone that's tuning in right now. These are extremely dirty tactics. Oh my goodness.
1,000%. It's just not okay to do it this way. And for these guys to pretend they're her friend and walking in this moment, I don't know how these dudes sleep at night, to be 100% honest with you. Because let's say they were forced to do this. Like, let's pretend that their supervisor said, you got to go serve these orders, and it's a lawful order, so you got to do it. Okay. They're not going to walk in just all chummy and happy and cool. Like, they're going to be upset. They're going to be like, wow, this super sucks. Like, this is not cool. This is somebody that I've worked with, that I care about, that I love. This is not okay. That's not the demeanor that we see from them at all, which is what makes me feel like this was planned ahead of time. They had a meeting, they probably decided the order that they were going to walk in, the exact words that they were going to say when they walked in. And it's just disgusting to me that they would treat her this way as a coworker. And I saw a comment roll through about female cops in Massachusetts. Whoever you were, sad to say, it's not just Massachusetts. Female cops everywhere are degraded. They're treated less than. That's just the world that we live in, unfortunately, still.
Yeah.
And we know that this was something that police chief gave his okay on, because he has had multiple lawsuits filed against him for treating women officers in degrading ways and fashions. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he had some say in this, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's,
Agree.
like I said, this footage is
It's
just
a tangled web.
yeah. Lori, how would you argue this in court? How would you present this, before a courtroom? And like, do you think, and additionally, how much of this do you think would be useful to the defense team?
On the criminal side?
Yeah. Just from what ends up happening with the shooting and everything.
I don't really practice criminal law, but I mean, the one thing I will say is I know Tim was the one that put this recording out, and this is the tip of the iceberg. That's one thing I will say. There is a lot more to come, and I think you are going to see it. And I think the point of it is that you look at her. She's calm as cool as a cucumber over here, answering the door, and in complete contrast to whatever Justin was saying was going on with her, that you don't see that in that video. You don't see anybody that you're concerned of, having that baby. And of course, it's just a little clip there, but I don't know. But I'm sure there's a lot more, and we're going to see a lot more. And Tim's very confident on this case, and I think he has reason to be.
I agree, 100%. And I think to that point, this footage was released by his office, and if they've seen this footage, they've seen whatever else footage is in the house, and whatever that picked up. If there's even audio, for all we know, that's huge too. And it was believed that there's a security camera near that bedroom. If that picked up audio or enough footage, there's more than enough information to basically create an open shut case as it pertains to this. But these cops look absolutely awful walking in this house. I think if they had been out there for a minute and just kind of walked her through what was about to happen before entering the home, they're going in there so quickly. It's just her mind's just reacting to, okay, they're here. Okay, they're in my house. Okay, the baby's being taken away. There's a restraining order now, and it's where are your firearms? And this is something that is going to result in a lot of emotional reaction. That gets us back to the postpartum depression aspect of this.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, why did 3 police officers have to come in to her home to serve that order? I think one male police officer and 1 female. I don't even know how many females they have in that department. It's not many. They don't have many there, but that should have been some forethought there. When you're taking a child away from its mother, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
No,
this whole video always makes me a little bit sick when I see it, to be honest with you. It just it screams at me. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then people that are going to criticize Kelsey. I mean, can you imagine, like, your child, like, you're there with your little baby, and these men are coming and they're taking your baby away from you, and you have no warning, no idea it's going to happen, why it's happening. No, I don't like it. And then Justin's out there too.
That's the other problem that I was going to say.
Crazy.
Is anytime that I ever served an order that involved a child being taken away, the parent wasn't there, because that's a dangerous situation.
Of course.
CPS is there. Because I'm not taking the kid. I don't even like kids. That's not the point. But I'm like handing the kid off to CPS. CPS is going to take it somewhere, make sure it's safe, whatever, and then give it to the parent. There is no situation in the history of reasonable situations where the other parent who has just served this order would be standing outside, like, ready for the kid.
Right.
That's
No.
ridiculous.
Talk about escalating. Jeez.
1000%. And that's what we're supposed to be avoiding here. So that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
To me, there's a lot of training issues here with the law enforcement. I mean, I don't know whether they do many of these things. And it is unique. You're taking a baby away from their mom, but I can't believe the way that whole thing went down. It was so avoidable. All of it was so avoidable.
Everything was avoidable.
1000%.
That's what bothers me too about, like I said, the whole actually allowing Justin in the house. That's just that's a bad procedure, but it's also an escalation situation as well, where it just could create a reaction and trigger, whether it's Kelsey or any other woman that would have been in that situation, to say, my kid's being taken away from me. The person served an RO. They're taking my kid. Now the person's actually in the house. Why would you? I mean, you might as well just take fuel and throw it on the fire and see what happens. I mean, this is just outrageous.
And we know when she heard Justin's voice, she said, keep him away from me.
Yeah.
So it did affect her.
So I didn't know this. So they let him in the house during all of.
Yes. He was in the basement. I don't know if he ever came up to the.
He was going through her stuff to get some things out, I guess, or something like that. But that's just, I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous.
This is just stupid times 12 at this point. Like, in no land of normal police work would you do this.
Yeah.
Zero. It's ridiculous.
It looks very bad.
Does anybody know how many cameras there are in the house? Do
I
we
believe
have
it
that
may be-
information?
Quite a few. I think
I think
there's
it's
quite
no
a
less
few.
than 3. No less than
So-
3, I believe. Yeah. That's
So
my
we've got
understanding.
more camera views coming, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's why Kelsey has continued to say the truth will come out, because she knows, like, let's say there were no cameras. She knows he said, she said, there's no telling what way that's going to go. But if she knows these cameras exist and what footage is on there, that gives her the confidence to say the truth will come out. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, and I've seen a lot of the discovery compliance, Commonwealth discovery compliance, and there's a lot of, if you look through those of what the Commonwealth has already produced to her defense team, it's worth looking at through the mass court system. You'll see some really interesting things there of stuff that's being produced to her. So it's going to be a very interesting trial, and I do firmly believe she's going to be vindicated with it.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I mean, so much damage done, right? I mean, that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
sad part about it. This poor kid.
Lori, I do have a question for you. I feel as though after this is all said and done, obviously, and she gets Caden back, I personally am not a lawyer, but I personally feel she's going to have a heck of a civil suit against quite a few parties in this. What's your thought, like, as an attorney on that?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It's the same thing with like the Karen Reed stuff and the qualified immunities and all of that. They're always really tough to bring. But she may, with the procedures just not being followed, she may have something there, really. And this, my understanding is the officer with the gloves, Noonan, was her partner at one point, or they were working together. That's just insane to me that he would be showing up there, and unless they thought he was going to be the de-escalation factor, but apparently
Not appropriate though, right, Claudia? Like,
no.
1,000% not appropriate. Nobody from her department should have been there that day to serve that warrant. That's just the way it is. And somebody just said qualified immunity. I've not researched Massachusetts specifically, but a couple years ago, several states eliminated qualified immunity for police officers. I don't know about Massachusetts, but that's why it's so hard now for people to want to do that job, because they're like, if I just do what I'm supposed to be doing, now I'm going to get sued. But in this situation, that's where it becomes beneficial to the people who aren't doing the right thing. Why does this department not have cameras? Does anybody know? Body cameras?
yeah.
I mean, every department now has body cameras.
Yep, they were
needs to-
approved.
They got the grant.
Yeah, they got the
They
grant.
just chose not to get it.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, why? They had the money.
Why? Like,
Yeah.
because initially as an officer, when you think about it, you're like, I don't want to wear that. That's stupid. I don't need that. But at the end of the day, it protects officers just as much.
Yes.
So if you
The
are
good police, it protects the good police.
yes, if you are a good, ethical, moral officer with integrity, you will want that body camera and you won't have a problem with it, because you're going to say the F-bomb every now and then. That's fine. That's going to get cleared out. But you will want that because it will clear you more than it would, make things bad for you. So that's very interesting to me, why the department wouldn't want that.
Right. We might not be here today had they just had the cameras that they needed to begin with.
Right.
And remember the grand jury failed to indict on the attempted murder charge, and that's where they had originally gone, and that's a one-sided proceeding with the evidence basically in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, and they failed to indict on that. So if you point a gun at someone, that's attempted murder. Point a gun and pull the trigger, supposedly it jammed. I mean, I'm just saying, for the grand jury not to indict on that, you can indict a ham sandwich, right? Something like that. So
Right.
I don't see how they come back with assault with a dangerous weapon. The grand jury, when if that gun was pointed, the grand jury didn't buy it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So what does that tell you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It just amazes me that there's the body cam thing. I think this day and age, especially, it's a digital age at this point. We live in a world where there's not only the internet, there's AI now. You have a phone 20, 30 years ago. You just had a phone, and being able to just text on your phone or go on the internet was a big deal. Now you can video record, take photos, do whatever you want with your phone. Go on apps, order delivery food, or buy clothes that have shipped to your house. You can do whatever you want on your phone now. And in this day and age, given you drive through an intersection at a four-way stoplight, there's cameras up there now. There's security cameras all over the place in every business. These cops at this point, and this is not a pro or anti-cop statement, but I see having body cams as a two-way street. It protects cops from the public. It protects the good cops from the bad members of the public, and the bad people, it protects the good people from the bad cops. So let's put it this way: it protects good from bad. Either way you cut it, whether it's cop or civilian. God forbid you're a police officer on duty. You walk down to investigate a warehouse at 10:32 on a Saturday night, and the place is being robbed. The next thing you know, you get shot, and the suspects get away. Well, understood you get shot in the line of duty and killed, but it is on camera, so they can potentially find the suspects that killed you. So that protects good cops from bad people and good people from bad cops. Because if they did what Kelsey says they did, is a story I find 1,000 more percentage, 1,000 points or whatever more believable, 1,000% more believable. We'll say it that way. It's like, well, if it's on camera, that's the end of the ball game. If this guy, and I think this boils down to basically, it's my opinion, I think this officer overreacted to a situation and fired off some shots. That whole pre-orchestrated conspiracy is also in play. I think there's a couple of different ways this thing could have gone, but at the very minimum, there was a reaction. And Kelsey doesn't shy away from the fact that she had a firearm in her hand. She doesn't shy away from the fact that she put it to her own head. She has nothing to gain by lying here. But she told her side of the story, and their story totally conflicts with that. And I happen to find, like I said, it's the fact that they said the weapon jammed. That was the kicker for me that just said, okay, you guys are making something up here.
I would love to hear Claudia's take on the jam, because we were talking about it earlier.
So I'm going to start before the jam. If she was going to lie, let's say none of this ever happened and she was going to lie, she would say, I never touched my gun. I never touched my gun. I never picked it up. I never did this, that. So why would she admit to saying, you know what, in that moment, I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself. I picked it up. I pointed it at my head. First thing. So I'm going to say that. As far as the jam, was this her duty weapon?
That's a great question. I
don't know.
I don't know that either. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know that we've ever heard.
Either way, yay on the over 1,000. Thank you for that on the fundraiser. But gun jamming, I'm not going to say it does happen. Like it does happen, but it generally happens if you have a crappy firearm, if you have a firearm that you don't clean, there's things that factor into it. So let's play pretend, first off, this was her duty weapon. She doesn't shoot it that often. Like, let's be honest, because she's not out there shooting people. It's not Clint Eastwood. Right. She's going to clean it most likely when she goes to the range. Like the chances of it jamming are not that realistic, to be honest with you. Like the only times I've ever had a firearm jam are when I had to make it jam in a firearm situation. You know what I mean? Like you literally have to set it up to jam in a situation so that you can qualify. Yeah, basically. Like they just don't jam. Yeah, right. You got to show that you know what to do to clear it, blah, blah, blah. Tap rack. Yeah. They don't jam all the time. It's just not that big of a thing. So the fact that magically in all this, that we don't have body cams, that we have a dude walking in with gloves, that we have these people showing up to serve this warrant that shouldn't really be serving this warrant, all like step after step after step, and magically in this moment her firearm jams. No, it didn't jam. That's just dumb. That's just dumb, people, because coincidences don't happen. Like I'm a Seinfeld person,
right?
There are no big coincidences or small coincidence. There are no coincidences. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. So I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying it.
And I was saying earlier, like for me, the jam is a problem any way you look at it for the prosecution, because if she has a gun up to her head and it jams, then he has a second or two to react, to maybe jump on her to get the gun away from her. If she has the gun pointed at him and it jams, number one, he wouldn't have been giving her instruction. He would have immediately shot. Like
Correct.
when a gun is pointed at you as law enforcement, you shoot.
You shoot.
So how are you going to explain that? Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time to wait. If
Right.
that the moment that gun starts to point at you, you shoot. That's just how it is. Because again, I'm going home.
Exactly. And the fact that he missed one shot, that is weird to me too.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
I will say, sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's actually not that weird.
Okay.
So, as odd as it sounds, there are tons of like 2 feet away, back and forth, like firefights between a cop and a suspect, and the number of bullets that miss is ridiculous. So for
Okay.
some reason, like in the heat of the moment, that does often happen. So that piece, I don't necessarily think is crazy in the heat of the moment, because you can look at studies and different like real life cases where cops and suspects shot at each other from a very short distance, and like they shot 30 times and 30 times they missed.
Okay.
So that's not weird to me.
Okay.
But everything else is weird to me, to be honest.
Do we know whether it was the first shot that missed or the second shot? I don't think that
debated.
information's out there.
Good question.
Britt Happens believes he made the first and missed the second. I believe he. She believed he made. No, the best shot, he always takes the first shot. She said. She said she believes he made the first shot and missed the second. I believe he missed the first one, corrected his aim, and then hit the second. That's what I believe. That's my theory. But I think
I don't know. I don't know that there would be a way to even tell that, like even forensically, in trial. So I don't know. Right?
Well, body
like,
cams would have fixed that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The only way we would know is truthful testimony.
Right.
Yeah.
And are we going to get that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
In
Only
that
from
situation-
Kelsey.
There's too much at stake. Now they have their own personal interest at stake.
Yeah, now they got to protect themselves. So now
Mhm.
they're in this situation because the victor tells the story, right?
Mhm.
So when you're in a situation in a shootout and the other person dies, you're the only one that gets to tell the story.
Mhm.
That's right.
Well, that didn't happen for them, unfortunately for them.
Mhm.
Now Kelsey gets to tell her story. So we're not going to get the truth from them.
No, but the good thing is, obviously Attorney Breda will know, and it's going to be a credibility issue on stand because they have too much motive to lie really about it. They like the other story better, and he will manipulate that for them, in a positive way, the way it should be,
And anything else that, Noonan's had in his past is fair game. So
absolutely.
you better hope he's got a squeaky clean record.
Nobody has a squeaky clean record.
Yeah,
Nobody.
Yeah. Just a message to Darlene here in the chat. She seemed to get a little frustrated that we're not answering questions. She says, I guess questions only get answered if you donate. Is that right? No, that's wrong. What's your question, Darlene? Let us know. I'm actively hosting the show. I'm speaking with fellow guests that I want to make sure they have the time to talk. Additionally, I'm also taking donation totals right now, keeping a lot of track. There's no super chats. There's no super thanks. There's no super stickers. They're all off. But please, let us know your question. I don't want to be rude to you, but it's very tough to. I'm speaking with 3 people right now. I'm tracking donations.
You're doing a good job,
There's a lot going on,
You
so
are.
it's not personal, Darlene.
And
All
I
right.
can tell you from
Yeah.
hosting one the other week, I don't know how Mazza does everything
Yeah.
that he is doing right now.
Yeah.
Like he's actively
Right.
doing all these things. I had a hard time even looking at the chat. So it's big props that Mazza
It's a
can
lot.
even see that. Yeah.
Right. I'm
I
not
see
mad
her
at that.
question.
Yeah.
I see your question.
Yep, I
Yeah.
see your question too.
I'm
I
not
can
mad
answer
at
part of
Darlene.
it.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I can answer
Yeah.
part of it. So before I was a cop, I was actually a paralegal.
Yeah.
And I was a guardian ad litem. So generally speaking, guardian ad litems don't come into play until like we're in the court system. So in this moment of this protection order being served, a guardian ad litem has not been appointed yet. So they're not going to exist yet in this realm. However, Darlene, CPS or whatever they call it in Massachusetts should have been there because
Yeah.
Justin should not have been there. So guardian ad litem, that would have come like later, most likely, but CPS should have been there to take custody of the child, make sure the child is safe, healthy, okay, then give the child to Justin in a location not related to where they lived.
And if I can just add as a follow-up for Darlene, in case she means why isn't one being appointed now? I
Yes.
do believe that, Kelsey had, I've said this a couple of times, she has a lot on her plate right now. We have the criminal proceeding and we have the probate and family court proceeding. And it might not make sense to move forward on the probate and family court proceeding at this point until the criminal case is behind her. At that point, if her attorney wants to file a motion for an appointment of a guardian ad litem, they definitely can do that. And ask for the court to make recommendations relative to custody, parenting time, all of those things. And that probably will happen at some point in this case. In the probate and family court case, it probably will happen at some point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not mad at you, Darlene. I just wanted to let you know what kind of my perspective is. I didn't want you to think that I was like sandbagging questions tonight and being rude to people in the chat. It's not the case. It's just it's very busy to run these shows, to say the least. Leah has this question. If Kelsey was in fact pregnant at the time of the shooting and lost the baby as a result of the incident, does that make it a heightened reason for Noonan and the officers to lie?
I think you have a very interesting point. The problem is I don't know that anyone knew that she was pregnant at that point. So therefore their lie probably started before even they knew. So therefore it would kind of not equate to that. But I think that you are a very critical thinker and you're the type that we would want on this type of jury.
Well, and
Right.
for
Right.
them to sleep at night, they might want to lie. Like, yeah, it might not factor into a civil judgment, but for them to be able to sleep at night, it might behoove them to lie about that because they don't want to feel bad. They don't want to feel guilty for what they really have caused. That was so much greater than just getting the baby away and walking away, in the middle of the day.
Absolutely. Donations are coming through, ladies and gentlemen. We're up to $12.15 right now. I love your cats, by the way, Lauren. The cats always make guest appearances.
Oh my God, is that a
Come in
hairless
and-
cat? Whoa. I'm so sorry. Got to change the subject entirely. Was that like a Mr. Bigglesworth?
Yes, that's Cash. They're like no other. I mean, they're more like dogs than cats.
Okay.
And then I have a Devon Rex too that has like a tiny bit of hair, but she's black. She's more like, you'll see her more because she's really glued to me, but they're funny.
So interesting, you guys. We'll delve into this later on text.
Right. That's hilarious. I think too, like one of the things that is just asked in the comments section, I think this is a great question. I'd love to hear everybody's take on it. Is about Noonan, him facing charges. I personally don't think he's going to face any charges due to the he said, she said. But Lauren, you talked about earlier on the show civil suits. So I don't know what the legality was for that, but I'll handle that. But let Lori and Claudia maybe speak to that a little further about, can she file a civil suit? What would be her argument? And how would she prove anything with, the whole he said, she said aspect of it? I guess that would come down to camera footage coming out in the house, which could probably nip that right in the bud in terms of evidence of, if there's something on camera, it just shows that she put it to her own head and he fired off a couple rounds at her. That's it. That's the whole thing right there in terms of proving, hey, look, he shot her. Case closed, open and shut.
And I go back to if they were trained to follow procedure and immediately seize the weapons and that procedure was not followed, therefore she had access to her weapon, you'd have to kind of go along those lines. But as
Mhm.
Claudia brought out, like the qualified immunity does make it tougher. But if they can prove all of that, then you have kind of very similar to what Lori said,
Yeah.
similar claims to what Karen Reed has right now.
Mhm.
So, well, thank you for
Mr.
these
Monks
donations.
wants to know, if you get 1,500, can you bring the cats back out? I will make Lauren go chase the cats if we get to 1,500.
Let's do it, everyone. Donate that
Yes.
money.
1,500, she'll go get the cats. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
We'll
Cats
get
for
our close
Kelsey.
up.
Yeah.
Cats for Kelsey.
Yes.
Hashtag cats for Kelsey.
Yeah. Take a few questions here. Why did Judge Kathleen McCarthy Naiman want to protect Noonan? She made that very clear in her rulings. That judge's decision making was awful. Everything she's done, it's just, I think that's just the issue. You look at Turtle Boy's case yesterday in Boston. You look at what Karen Reed went through with Judge Beverly Canoni. You look at what Kelsey's gone through with Judge Kathleen McCarthy Naiman. It's just been very frustrating to see these judges rule in a sense that even when someone like Bradel wants to take it to the Supreme Court level, the Supreme Court just defers to the judge's initial understanding and initial rulings and never seems to ever supersede those rulings. Mm-hmm. It's like they just don't want the public to ever see like a judge was wrong about something, because it would, God forbid that happens, because every case that's ever occurred in the history of the United States in that county in Massachusetts would just be corrected or called under fire. And that's what I have for my concern, is that you have someone like Bradel. You even had Karen Reed's team do this after the first trial. They questioned Judge Beverly Canoni. Mm-hmm. And then both times the Supreme Court deferred back to the judge. What the judge said is correct. It's accurate. No questions asked. There's no dispute. When you have attorneys, that are sitting there like they've worked in law for a long time, handled many of cases, seen a lot of things. But yet in these particular cases, when they involve cops that have been, you've seen what happened in the Karen Reed case. All the cops there, Michael Proctor out of a job, numerous cops punished or penalized, losing 5 days of vacation, getting fined, slaps on the wrist, whatever. It seems when it involves cops, because John O'Keefe was a cop. It was cops against cops there. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a cop. It's cops versus cops here. And these are two sets of circumstances where it doesn't seem like, to me, that the lawyers involved for both clients, Karen or Kelsey, feel like these judges are in any way, shape, or form conducting themselves appropriately with how they usually preside over other cases that those very attorneys have been involved in.
Mm-hmm. And they focus a lot on, I personally think what I've seen in these cases, the Canoni situation, and then the judge on Kelsey's case, Judge Naiman, a lot of it is like judges protecting judges too, which I don't like to see that. A perfect example of that, I felt that was kind of obvious in with Balasos and Cosgrove and that last hearing. I don't know if anybody else watched that, but that was kind of a debacle too. A lot of hard-hitting questions for Mark Betterow, and then just letting Cosgrove continually even misstate counties on cases that are pending and just like letting it go. But the SJC decision on Kelsey's case was egregious. That was absolutely ridiculous. In a million years, I did not see that one coming. That was, I just, the due process issues weren't even addressed in the SJC opinion. They just skipped right over it. They didn't even, it was the most important argument of all. And they were like, nope, judge didn't abuse her discretion. That doesn't happen. Bail doesn't get revoked because you come in and ask to have something modified. You just say, nope, I'm not going to modify it. Now what? Okay, well, we see what happened. She wasn't, she was complying with the bail conditions. I really couldn't believe that. I think that's a smear on the SJC that we have here, that they came up with that decision. Ridiculous.
I think it's an epidemic amongst professionals, to be honest with you, because I think we see it with judges, we see it with police officers, we see it with doctors. When you look at malpractice, doctors don't want to speak against other doctors. And so I think it's the same amongst all these different professions, is they want to believe oh no, we're doing everything right and they're just attacking her. So like, I'm going to protect that.
Right.
I think it's just a case where people are afraid or don't want to speak out for what's really right. That's where we are in society now. And it's super sad because it is hard to be that person to speak out. It's hard to say, no, that's not right, because you're then going to be the point of attack. And, but that's where we are now. And I think it's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, going back to the judge, why was she seeming to protect Noonan? Well, we don't know, but we know that a lot of these people are tied together in a lot of cases, like Karen Reed. Did someone's daughter go to school with someone's son? We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, but that whole procedure seemed extremely personal, and she was set on, in my opinion, throwing Kelsey back in jail that day. So is there a connection with Noonan? Is there a connection with one of the other officers that was in the house that day? Was there a connection to Justin's family? Those are things that Bradle's team, and if they have a private investigator, will dive into and be able to produce at trial if there is. But in this regard, it's very easy to think that way because we've seen it happen in cases so close to this one. And also just seeing that display that Kathleen gave us on the bench, quite honestly.
That was a display.
Yeah, I mean, I think in her case, it was more like she was just, she didn't like her decision in the beginning, the whole, the bail terms that she had set being questioned. And, I felt so bad for Attorney Bradle during that whole thing, because the backlash, even, you see the Twitter lawyers and whatnot saying things, it was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you think you can just get a note from a surgeon, or you can have a surgeon come and show up and testify. I tried to get these things. You can't get them. But you have to sympathize with him because he didn't think he needed it. He was going in on just a modification. He actually brought the case in, and in a million years, he would never think that her bail was going to be revoked. Nobody would. You can have any criminal lawyer, and I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I've seen enough that there was no way that he would anticipate that her bail was being revoked on that day, just because he was asking for an accommodation that the probation department agreed with.
Yeah.
Right.
And an officer of the court, you're supposed to be granted like a little more than just your average citizen because you're an officer of the court.
Yeah.
So that's what they would have relied on, I think, in that situation.
Yeah, she definitely was angry.
That judge knew she was shot in the chest. She was not unaware of that. And I'm sorry, but yeah, cool. If you want a note from a surgeon, it's going to take a minute, but common sense, like, you were shot in the chest, in the lungs. What do you think her breathing capacity is at this point? Like, it was insane. It really was insane.
And our judges should have compassion and understanding. And, that was absolutely, I mean, yes, you need to follow the law, but that doesn't mean you have to set your humanity aside. That's ridiculous.
Right. What bothers me about that, to your point, Lori, is this a special set of circumstances where the judges they're out to defend police departments because, God forbid, a police department gets a bad rap, for maybe John O'Keefe getting murdered and his murder being covered up, or for, Kelsey being blatantly shot in her own home, while an RO for a baby, being taken into custody as well as being served. It just seems like these judges protecting police departments because it will cause a big stir in the public. So they try to allow someone like Karen Reed or Kelsey Fitzsimmons basically be a patsy, in a sense, in these typical type of situations where they're basically the fall person. Whatever happens to you, but we can't have the Canton Police Department or the North Andover Police Department be exposed for any amount of wrongdoing because we can't have a lack of public trust. Well, here's the facts. The lack of public trust is there. And we've seen what changed in the Canton Police Department over the years. The chief of police, that was the chief of police when this happened, isn't the chief of police anymore.
Correct.
Their select board, it's changing all the time. And all this is doing is getting people like ourselves to hone right in on those towns and saying, no. What really happened there? What happened? And, that's a situation where Claudia, I think Claudia switched, is re-entered here. Okay, there we go. There we go. I saw a new. I'll boot the other one from the. There we go.
Kick her out.
Yeah, kick the other. So I'm like two Claudias.
There can only be one.
Yeah.
It's like Highlander.
Yeah.
Right.
And it raises awareness. And when you look at, for example, I think a few of us had talked about this on Lauren, your fundraiser just the other night there a week ago, is you look at the chief and the female officers and what's going on with female police officers there. I don't want to always make everything about gender discrimination, but when you have two female officers prior to Kelsey that had complaints or filed whatever that they filed, and then you look at what happens to Kelsey Fitzsimmons, then you see 3 officers go to her house to serve an RO. There's no female police officer there. It just starts to make you raise questions. And people out there are like, oh, you're being a conspiracy theorist about the gloves. But you want to know something? My attitude is everything is in play as potential evidence or as a potential part of a conspiracy until it's proven that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you go about an investigation.
Right.
Plain and simple. So you're exactly right.
Show us video of Noonan on 10 other cases where he didn't have on gloves or where he did have on gloves. Like, that's all we need to see. And then we'll know.
Right. 100%. That was my thoughts exactly. Because I look at everything, analytically, I'm like, well, does he always wear? I mean, if he wears gloves, I mean, if he's pulling into McDonald's at lunchtime to get a Big Mac, is he wearing gloves then? It might sound funny, but it's an argument though. It's like, does he wear gloves around the office? Does he go in every single house? I mean, if an old lady just threw an iron at her 88-year-old husband who can't hear because he wasn't listening to her, does he respond to that call? That happened in the movie Short Time in the 1980s, by the way. Does he show up to that house with gloves? And while that might sound comedic to us, because we're trying to lighten the show up a bit, but it's an argument though. I want to know, does he consistently appear with gloves on? Because at this point, those gloves are a suspect. It's a suspicious item that he's wearing. Could be nothing, could be wrong. But, it has to be vetted. It has to be examined. I think every piece of evidence should always be examined and analyzed to the fullest extent that it can mentally. And I see some of the people, the naysayers on Twitter, I get it all the time. It's just gloves. They just walked in the door. Look, if you want to look at it simplistically, that's fine. But from an investigative standpoint, everything must be, you got to look under every single item in the house. Everything is potentially a gateway to proving something. And if they happen to say, well, you know what, it's funny, here's some video footage from him appearing on 10 different other house arrivals and he never wears gloves. Well, now I want to know, we see here in the video footage of 10 other trips you made, you didn't wear gloves, you went to other people's houses, you didn't wear gloves, why not? But if he happened to wear gloves a bunch of other times, well, I guess it's a nothing burger, but it's something to be looked into.
Mm-hmm. And that evidence might be a little trickier to get because there was no body cameras. But if you received a call from the North Andover Police Department, or if you were at the old station and Noonan came to your door, please send those videos to the defense team, whether he has gloves on or not. But it will help to, vet that, because that is something, and that is something that investigators will want. So if you ever received a house call or anything like that, a lot of people will keep that camera footage because the police came, right? So if you have it, please send it in. Anyone that has any information that could, help in any way.
Great point.
It's just, like I said, I saw him with those gloves on. And like I said, what stood out to me was a couple things. Like, when I analyze things, I always ask myself to look at 2 things. What do I see and what do I don't see? I see Noonan wearing gloves. What do I not see? I don't see the other 2 officers wearing gloves. What do I see or hear about? Noonan's the one that got into shooting with her. What do I don't see? The other cops did not. Who wore the gloves? Noonan. Who did not? Those cops. It's just, when I think of it that way, that's how I narrow down on things. I'm like, that's.
And it was June 30th, so it had nothing to do with the weather.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And they weren't going to, like, I had seen these comments on Twitter. They weren't going to gather evidence. It wasn't like he was going in there. This was not a search warrant. It wasn't an arrest warrant. It was literally the service of a 209A civil restraining order. That's what it was. You know, it didn't require them to gather evidence. I mean, I understand securing firearms, even just based on what Justin said, even if she wasn't a police officer, if Justin was saying she has weapons and she might try to shoot you and this and that, I don't think they took the proper precautions that they should have taken, but they weren't there for gathering evidence. They were there to serve that order. And what should have happened, if they did it appropriately, and the child was removed and Kelsey was sitting on the couch, and they went and got the firearms and sent another officer to go gather some things for the baby, Kelsey would have been back in court within a few days, telling her side of the story to the judge, and perhaps more than likely getting some form of custody back and at least parenting time back. And none of that would have happened. It was merely the service of a restraining order, nothing more. It's taken on a whole new life, as though there was something that she had done wrong to begin with. And it was basically just one person's story.
That's right. And that's all the public has really heard is his one-sided, self-serving statement so far. So I just think that, it's such a big deal, like, for Kelsey, and I hope she feels that love. Like, all the public knows is the crap that Justin's spewing to people from the court stuff. But we have all, yes, we have all looked at it and been like, nah, we see you. We see what you're doing. And we've all been like, no, let's advocate. This is wrong. So, like, I just hope that gives her, the support that she needs to get through this, because the rest of the world will be able to see it very, very soon.
Yeah. And she's doing amazingly. Yeah. I mean, to see her, facing the cameras after that last court date, after everything she's been through, man, I give that girl a lot of credit.
She is a badass.
Definitely.
I want to say two things. The first is about the gloves, because I see the chat going and a lot of people are saying different things about the gloves. So for me, I hated gloves. They were always too big. I have tiny hands, but my gloves were always in my right cargo pocket, so I could always grab them when I needed to. But some officers go everywhere with gloves. They always put their gloves on. So it doesn't matter that he was going to see his partner, whatever. Like, if he was the person that always wore gloves, then he always wore gloves. Just like anytime I go to back up my car, I take my seatbelt off to this day, because when you're in like a high speed situation, like, you take your seatbelt off real quick so you can maneuver. So it's like those things you just do automatically. So, like, we need to know, though, did he always wear gloves or did he not? That's the thing. The other thing that I really want to know, and this is just going to have to come from Kelsey at some point, I really want to know about domestic abuse. I'm not saying it happened. We don't know, but we don't know that it didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in a situation as a police officer with another police officer. You would not have known. Nobody would have known. So was that a situation between them? And this was another way for him to utilize coercive control and the court system to show her that he's in charge? I don't know. I'm just saying it is a distinct possibility. And the only way we will know is from her. And if she has outcry witnesses, a journal, anything like that might be presented at some point. But I just think we're remiss to forget about that possibility.
Absolutely. And to speak to that, Claudia, you know better than anyone, you talk about domestic violence all the time, but abuse comes in many different forms. It doesn't just come in physical form. Sometimes the emotional abuse is worse than the physical. So there are so many aspects to that. And I would even dare to say that if, there could have been no domestic violence with them whatsoever, but to use a court system in the way that he is doing is downright abusive, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sorry, but you'll never convince me otherwise of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, to suddenly jump to that situation, I mean, there's something more going on.
Yeah.
I just truly believe that there's always something. There's one piece of information that makes it all fit together. Lauren and I have talked about that. There's something more to this story, and I just pray that we find it out. I also pray that we get to the $145 more for more cats. Yeah,
You're so
I don't
close,
like
guys.
cats, but the creepy hairless cats, like, let's get those on the screen. Let's get them on the screen. $145, guys, for creepy hairless cats.
I was laughing earlier because Mr. Monk Thunder said he was like, "Ooh, $145 away from cat."
That's funny.
You
Maybe
guys
we
are
should use those-
amazing.
We should get the cat filters, you know.
Yes.
During COVID, that was that hearing where the poor attorney had the
Oh,
cat
yeah.
filter going, and
That was the best.
That was adorable.
it was so good.
Claudia, maybe a question for you to take here. Shouldn't Noonan have put the gloves on right before handling the firearm of Kelsey's firearms, not before he went in and touched other stuff? That's what all my studies and training have taught me.
Again, it's just personal preference. Like, I see a lot of officers now that put on gloves anytime they walk into a scene. For me, if I knew there was going to be blood, then I would put on gloves before I walked in. Like, if I know I'm going to a shooting, a stabbing, whatever, I'm driving, I'm gloving up. Some officers glove up anytime they go somewhere. Seems a little weird to me, but that's just me. So not necessarily, I would say, Leah, if that was his normal practice. And that's what we need to know. Was that his normal practice? Like, if you see me putting on gloves to go in this situation, that's weird because I don't wear gloves. I don't like gloves. Did he wear them all the time? We need to see more footage.
Being that Noonan has been out on medical leave, if he doesn't return by Kelsey's next hearing or trial, will he be excused from testifying? How can it be fair to Kelsey and her case?
No way.
No, he won't be excused.
No excuse. If he's subpoenaed, he's subpoenaed. It doesn't matter what he's out on medical leave or whatever.
If you remember former disgraced Trooper Proctor, they didn't have him come and testify, but they could have.
Yep.
Right.
What a winner that guy is.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that was awful. But it's interesting to that point, Claudia, is that my theory about Proctor is he'd still have a job today if those texts weren't recovered and what the defense had motioned for. What's happened too is Bradel's defense team has motioned for a lot of records, a lot of information out there. And I'm curious if they're able to acquire any text messages that may have been exchanged, such as if the officers were, say, having a text exchange between themselves and the gentleman in which that filed the restraining order, perhaps. If there's anything where these cops are saying, don't worry, we'll make sure, it's like pinning on the girl comment that was made, we're related to Karen Reed. If there's anything like that, that's because the thing is about Proctor is all these other cops that we believe are dirty, they all still got jobs. They've all been demoted or rehomed or whatever, but they didn't get fired like Proctor did. And Proctor got fired because there was dirt on him that was able to be, Ted Daniels and all those people were able to put that on the internet and put it on the news. And I'm telling you right now, if Bradel and his team are able to acquire information that has any hint of a conspiracy, anything that would be against Kelsey, that's massive information.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And if I were them, I would be trying to get information from every officer, every superior officer in that department and beyond, even to the clerk's office, to the potentially the judges that are involved in that protection order, because you're 1,000% right. With Proctor, it didn't take much, and we know that there was way more worse than what we even got to see. And that's why magically his appeal went away so suddenly, when there was more to the story. So, I think they should be pulling every text record that they are able to pull and search for all the names involved, Kelsey, Justin, to see, was there some type of conspiracy? Was there some type of discussion that evolved before they went to their house? And even after, was there some type of cover-up that was attempted after the shooting? It's all relevant, 100%.
Definitely.
I was thinking earlier about the footage that that Karen Reed, they had acquired from John O'Keefe's home, which was the footage of Karen Reed backing up in her search to find John O'Keefe, and her backing into his vehicle, and that rear taillight actually making contact with that vehicle. And really, that was footage that the Canton Police Department couldn't account for when they were working with the state police on putting together whatever claims against Karen that they did. They couldn't account that footage existed. And getting back to the body cams and the no body cams that those police officers wore in North Andover that day, they didn't account for the footage that we have seen released this past week by Bradle's law office. And it also doesn't account for whichever other footage that law office would like to release, or has already seen a lot, probably going back months at this point. But it just amazes me how in every situation, cameras can reveal the whole truth, and that security footage, if that exists inside that house, that shows enough information visually or even from an audio standpoint. If Kelsey had maybe made a comment upstairs, if it's say like the camera just shows like the hallway, but a recorded audio, and it simply just says, has Kelsey say, I'm gonna end my life right now, and Kelsey don't do it. Well, that's irrefutable with her claim. So I think that's sometimes these officers, and I don't want to give dirty cops any advice, but I guess I will. But it appears this day and age technologically is that you can't just cover up things without accounting for what you can't account for, which is other people having cameras.
Much now.
Right. Throw the wrench.
That's why I think the body cameras have really helped good cops, because so many people are quick to anything's going on in the street. People are pulling out their cell phones looking for that viral moment. And then you see, 5-second clips, 10-second clips. And so many times the police have been able to come in and provide a context, what happened before and then what happened after. And you find a new narrative with it to say, the police were actually acting appropriately. If you look at that 5-second clip, maybe not so much. So I think it's really a protection for good police. And I think most police prefer them. I mean, I'm assuming, Claudia, you prefer them. I think it helps. I think it helps the good police.
I 100% agree with you.
I don't want to be rude here tonight, but everybody needs everybody's help. Everybody should try to help everybody.
Not the criminals.
Yeah, well, not the criminals. I mean, not the criminals. Oh, yeah.
He's referring to your comment about helping the bad cops.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought she was referring to the other comment. Oh, okay.
No, that's the bad.
Dirty
but
cops.
I get in trouble for that all the time, Mazza. I do that all the time. I'm like, but why did they do this? And people are like, don't help them.
What do they mean they don't need my help? They're like, I'm thinking about the other thing. I'm like, what do they mean they don't need my help raising funds for Kelsey? I'm like, because of the dirty cop thing. I'm like, my head just moved on. I was like, okay, I'm just
right.
I got a little bit of Tylenol on me today, so maybe that's why.
Been a long day.
Thank you for explaining that comment to me, Claudia. Coco, you're good to go. All right, that's okay. We got $30 away from
where are those cats?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One is right here waiting.
Gather up the cats. $30, guys.
You guys have been amazing with the donations tonight. Keep them coming. This is fantastic.
We got
Thank you so much for those. We got it. Oh,
it's cat time. We got 15-20 now.
I love it.
Oh my God.
That is so creepy. I just have no words.
Hello, Cash. He's just so cool, man. Like they're like nothing I've ever encountered. Like they are more like a dog. Very, very cool.
But like, how could you not name it Mr. Bigglesworth?
Well, because I call him by his name, and so I'm like, that would be a mouthful. I was thinking about naming him something like I have my other cat is Olivia Pope, And
Love it.
I shorten it to Livy. So I'm like, anything that I name him, I'm gonna shorten it anyway. So I won't.
It could be Biggles.
Biggles. That is cute. That is very
Look what you
cute.
did to Mr. Bigglesworth.
Wait.
He's very sleepy though.
Yeah.
Hi. You gonna say hi?
Uh,
No.
He loves people
because
though.
he's being a cat.
Yeah.
He's being a cat.
that's funny.
And
Guys.
I will go get the other one.
Oh, there we go.
Those donuts. Guys.
Exactly.
I
Keep the
mean-
donuts coming.
That's right.
Yeah, she definitely
funny.
needs it. It's tough. I mean, she had to sell her house, and money's being held in escrow, as we know, for Justin's child support. Which
Somebody
is
said they got a 403 error when you used your link to donate. Just FYI.
Thank you, Miss Nomer. That should be good to go. That link's been working. The only person that's reported that so far tonight. We'll get the
And what a great profile picture.
You know,
Not out there.
Mods, could we dump the chat, the link in the chat for Ms. Nomer? Actually, no, I can do it. I have the link right here. Ms.
Okay,
Nomer,
so does this one have a little fur? So creepy.
Yeah. So she's a Devon Rex. Most of them have a little bit more fur than this, but she's kind of got like, and it's so soft. Dana, can you look there?
Do they get cold?
Yeah. They normally will have sweaters on, but I'm washing them.
Yeah.
So.
you
Dead,
just
you
took the
guys.
crazy cat lady thing right to a whole new level.
The cat's bailing out. Yeah, live on camera. Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Washing the sweater day.
Pretty eyes. This is Beta.
Data.
Hi.
I love you even though you have cats.
I'm a dog person myself.
Same, Lori.
I have a dog too, but she's sleeping.
Yeah. Is that a Siamese cat you said?
This one's a Devon Rex.
Oh, okay.
And they're best friends. Like they do everything together, sleep together, like play together. They're just best friends. It's so cute.
How
That's
did you get
awesome.
into hairless cats? Inquiring minds want to know.
I wasn't a huge cat person either. And like I just did a bunch of research and they are like the most affectionate, smart, like you can train them to fetch, just crazy stuff. And so I just kept researching it and then I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And then I did, and then I was like, okay, this is the best cat I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're just so sweet.
right.
So, yes.
Fair.
All right. New total 1555 1555. That's awesome.
That
I'm
is
happy. I'm really
awesome.
happy.
Yeah.
It's, like every fundraiser I do, you never know how the donations are going to come in. Like you might have like the last one's like 4,000. One of them might be like 1 to 2. You never know. But the thing is like I look at it like collaboratively. Where not every night's going to be the big night. It's not going to be like the last time we broke the record, but not every fundraiser is going to be like that. It depends on varying circumstances. But I figure like if every fundraiser I can do raises over 1,000, then you take all those fundraisers together, that's like $10,000 in 10 fundraisers. So like every fundraiser, I'm like, I always want to hit like my goal is always like at least 1,000. Then it adds up. And then, then Lauren did a fundraiser too. She went over 1,000. We add those together. It just adds up over time, which is great. I mean, if you do a fundraiser and it gets 500 to 1,000 minimum, like that's awesome because that's just more money in her pocket, for Kelsey to defend herself, help her out with the medical expenses. So I'm always happy once we get the, that like the 1,000. But I'm like, yes, all right, we got the 1,000, and anything that's added on, it's just great. But it's like helping people, like to me, is like the biggest thing. And Kelly Reed's here, and Kelly can definitely vouch for me. We did the Karen Reed fundraisers constantly, and you look at the amount of money that came in for Karen. Kelly had done popcorn. We have a popcorn store for Kelsey right now. These funds put people like Karen, Kelsey, Aiden, all in the driver's seat in terms of enduring the burden that's thrusted upon them. And like I always say, just donate to who you want to donate to. Pick your 1 to 2 or 3 people, however you feel about who you'd like to donate to, and go for it. Help them out because it's gonna get. Kelsey Fitzsimmons' GiveSendGo right now is over $72,000. We crossed the $72,000 mark tonight. So and if we didn't do these fundraisers that we've done, it would be wouldn't be as high. If other people, not North Shore Nacho Night people, They're doing their event 6 o'clock at JJ Grimsby in Stoneham tomorrow night. They've donated a lot of money. They've raised a lot of money. The popcorn sales that have been generated have raised at least over $3,000 now towards Kelsey. 50%, I think 50% of the funds goes to her. So that's great. That's fantastic news. And I think what helped Karen Reed so much is we had so many different streams, so many people doing fundraising streams, so many people donating from all over the place. It all comes together. And, over time, it just adds up, where it starts off where it's like a push to get to 1,000, a push to get to 10,000. All of a sudden you hit 50,000. We did that. 70,000 we hit on Lauren's show. It all adds up over time. And, it was about 500,000 donated to Karen through the GiveSendGo, I think, for each trial on average, not including Venmos. But it's helpful because it just puts that person. It's like Michael Morrissey said, it was the DA in Norfolk County. He said he was asking for a big $1 million grant or whatever it was for the second trial when they were going to try Karen again. He said this defense is uncommonly well funded. And for me, as someone that's done fundraisers, as someone that's donated, and for anyone that's ever donated, anyone that's ever participated in fundraisers, that's like the highest compliment you're ever going to hear. That Michael Morrissey in a leaked email or revealed email said Karen Reed's defense was uncommonly well funded, because what that tells me is what we did and what we're doing for these people is working, and they're having a hard time trying to do what they do to Karen, because they're struggling now to get money themselves. We took Karen's financial issue and turned it into their financial issue. And that's exactly when I said to myself, my goodness, this is telling me that raising funds and doing fundraisers is the most important thing I think we can possibly do. And I'd like to thank every guest that's ever come on my show. Even Lori and Claudia, it's your first time in this show. No matter. Thank you so much for being here. Lauren, you've been on so many of my fundraisers. I thank you. And thank you for having me on yours. But it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do this. And if you're donating any fundraiser out there for someone in a situation like this, you deserve a round of applause, because you're helping these people fight against these people. Karen and Kelsey, they've had to fight with their backs up against the wall. Karen and Kelsey did not ask for what happened. They were two individuals that, Kelsey had her child taken away and she was shot. Karen was framed for the murder of her boyfriend, which she didn't do. And all these charges came on them. And, then you look at all the other circumstances. The judges are sometimes more than difficult. This judge sent Kelsey to jail for quite a bit, which was insanity. But it's important to raise money, because we want to equip Kelsey, Karen, Aiden, whomever, and anybody else that might come up in the future. Because right around the time we were wrapping up the Karen Reed case and I was ready to do my victory lap, lo and behold, you see what's happening to Kelsey. A couple weeks ago, Karen Reed's trial ended in June. Then what happened to Kelsey happened a couple weeks later. And I said to my goodness, this is an opportunity that I can use the platform and work with people to help raise money for her. But I don't want to ever see this happen to people, but I feel like if we can do one thing in our lives is help other people in situations like this. Well, I think, it's like Tom Hanks said in Saving Private Ryan, if Saving Private Ryan's the one thing we can get out of this entire war, then I guess we've earned our right to go home. And I look at that quote and I say the same thing about Karen, Kelsey, and others. If helping these people walk out the door free is the one thing that we can do. And even if you can't donate, if you can just raise awareness, share the news, join the Facebook group, stand out with a sign, whatever it is you can find to do. If you can do that, then you're going to help out. And like I said, it doesn't matter if these fundraisers are the biggest of the ones we've done or the smallest of the ones we've done. Even if we walk away from this fundraiser and we've raised awareness, we've got people to share the popcorn links, raise the story, do all that stuff. That's the biggest thing we can do. And I know a lot of us out there can have our differences, but, I think that I'm going to say this. I don't want to bring this into it, but I'm going to say it. This is the fundamental reason why we need to push our problems aside, because these are the things. Kelsey Fitzsimmons has been shot. She's been to jail. She's had her child taken away. Aiden Carney went to jail for reporting and asking the questions that should have been asked. And Karen Reed was framed for a murder she didn't commit. And I think at the end of the day, pushing problems aside and working together to the best of our ability to help beat the people that are trying to hold everybody down is the biggest thing that we can possibly do. And that's how I look at all of this. And personal opinions, whatever we think aside, help out who you can help out. And if you can help out Kelsey Fitzsimmons today, it would go to a woman that has not only been victimized physically, but victimized mentally. And as far as I'm concerned, the very worst thing that's happened to her is that she's lost her baby. And I think that everything else pales in comparison to her not being able to see her baby. Because every mother in this world will attest that if they would take, do whatever they needed to do to get their child or protect their child. And the powers that be out there are prohibiting her from having that opportunity to see her child on a daily basis. And these are the things that make me sick to my stomach. And I'm not a father. I don't know if that will be in the cards for me one day. We'll see. But if I was a father of a child, based on how my parents raised me, I would jump through hoops to save my child. But I know my parents could only do so much if the law and everything above them was holding them back from being able to protect their child. And that's why I think it's so important to help Kelsey Fitzsimmons. That's why we've done 10 fundraisers, and we're going to continue to do them. And support anybody you can. But I think supporting Kelsey is more than worth it, and it's more than worth our time. And those are the things that matter to me in life is helping people fight against the system that's decided that they could gang up on them, pin them in a corner, put their back up against the wall and say, guess what? We can shoot you and we can get away with it. Guess what? We can take your child away and get away with us. And us saying, guess what? You're not gonna single out Kelsey Fitzsimmons. You're not going to single out Karen Reed. You're not going to put them in a situation where their whole life is going to be ruined because of this. Not only their lives, but Kelsey Fitzsimmons' child as well. Just like what's happened to Sandra Birchmore. Sandra Birchmore just didn't lose her life. Her baby lost its life. Her baby lost its chance to live on this particular earth. And that cannot stand, and that cannot persist. And at the end of the day, every single person that's ever supported anybody out there, I don't care what their name is, what they've been through, Stefan Root, anybody. If you supported anybody in the least to raise awareness, good for you. And thank you so much. But I had to go on my annual show rant. But
that was so good, Mazza. Like so good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But it really does bring it down to what is important. And it's things like this. These people's lives have been affected. And it really does take a village. Like I know for the Karen Reed movement, there were so many people that were doing the fundraisers, and it really took that massive army to get behind her. And it was a really heartwarming thing to see and to be like a part of in any way. And it feels good. Like, and that's the thing I think people realized after that, like this not only helps like Karen, but it makes you feel good as a person. So it's a win-win. And the same thing with Kelsey. We all see something that has really outraged us. It's just plain wrong. And she's still a victim today. She may be out of jail, but is she really? She's in jail in her own home, can't even go in her backyard to get sunlight, can't see her son. That is sickening. And so the only thing we can do is come together and try to give her support, raise awareness, and bring in those funds for her. And it is a win-win. It makes you feel good inside, and it helps out Kelsey. So please, any donation is not too small. Like it doesn't matter the size, it adds up and it makes it.
And kind words always help too, and she does, she is on social media, the Facebook group. And I think on X, I know William, her stepfather, is on X. Can you imagine going through it and not having this support? I mean, this support has really, buoyed her spirits and helped her to think that people care this much about her and that care this much about, helping her through this. Imagine doing it if you didn't have that and you were trying to fight a system. You can't fight the system. You can't. It's difficult. But knowing that and the public eyes on this is what's really helped, and it helped in Karen's case too.
Right. Absolutely.
And what struck me, Mazza, about what you said with Morrissey saying, like, this is a really well-funded defense. Aren't we after the truth? Like, aren't we innocent until proven guilty? And aren't we after the truth? So why is a well-funded defense so frightening to the Commonwealth if they are supposedly after the truth. So I think that's one of the things that we need to remember. And that's one of the things that should scare every single one of us. Because if this machine decides to go against Karen, Kelsey, whoever else, what is to prevent them from going against you if you somehow become in the crosshairs? So if you resonate with Kelsey's story, please donate. Whether it's $1, whether it's $1,000, whether it's $30 to see a cat, whatever it is, it all adds up. And it's really to be able to fight against a system that is rigged sometimes against the people who are holding the truth.
Absolutely.
And in Karen's situation too, like, there was no rhyme or reason that they picked her. It just happened, you know, like it literally could have been anyone. And in a lot of regards, it could be anyone to be Kelsey, anyone with a child, with an ex, with a vendetta, who had something to gain and was trying to get ahead of something. This could all happen. So don't think that like you're too above it, because it can happen to anyone. And it should, just like Claudia said, it should terrify you. This is a big issue. Just like Aiden doing his job as a reporter, you know, like him, not like him, like what he says, don't like what he says, it doesn't matter. Like, he has a right to ask questions as a reporter. And if they're going to try and shut him up because of the things that he's bringing out of the corruption, that's a problem. And everyone should be concerned, because if they can take his voice, they can take our voice. So it's all intertwined, and we should all support everyone. All of this corruption is not okay. So like Mazza said, support everyone, donate for everyone, because it's all one big problem, which is corruption.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%. 100%. We're going to go to final thoughts for the show. Lori, do you want to lead us up?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to end by saying again, February is a big month for Kelsey. She needs these funds. This is really going to be a big help for her and her defense team. It's hugely expensive. The amount of legal work that has already gone into this case is unbelievable. People see these nice drafted documents and papers, and they have no idea the hours and hours and hours that go into drafting these things. So she has a February 9th date. If anybody's inclined to show up for that's the discovery compliance date in Salem at the Superior Court. And then she has a trial readiness date on March 12th and a tentative trial date on March 23rd. Caden's birthday, February 16th. You know, any heartwarming comments you can give to Kelsey on that day. It's going to be a very, very, very hard day for Kelsey that day. And February 25th, she's scheduled to be at the Probate and Family Court for a review. So just keep Kelsey in mind this month. And anytime you have, if you have a little money to donate, go to the popcorn. When is the popcorn ending, Mazza?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, midnight, the stroke of midnight on the 3rd. So it's all, you got 5 more hours plus to all tomorrow. So you got about 29 hours to buy popcorn.
Yeah. But we love you, Kelsey. And, you know, everybody's here trying to support you. Just want everybody to keep Kelsey in their thoughts. And hopefully we can keep this going for her, because she's going to need it. She's still got a long way ahead in terms of her legal fees. It needs to keep coming in to fight the corruption, as Lauren said.
Absolutely, Lori. Thank you, Claudia. Again, Lori, thank you so much for coming on the show. Feel free to stick around for the last couple minutes, unless you have to leave. No worries. Claudia, second show we've done together. Second time. First time was on Lauren's show. Second time was on this show. Thank you for joining. Just some final thoughts from you as we close up the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me. And to address again some of the comments, I'm watching them fly by. Yes, this is not gender specific. This can happen to any one of us. It just so happens that we are talking about a case of a woman, and Karen Reed was a case of a woman, but this can happen to absolutely any one of us. And that's what is so frightening about it. So if you have the funds to give to Kelsey, please do so if you believe in her cause. And if you don't, give awareness, because sharing what's happening is just as big sometimes as sharing the funds. People in power often want us to be silent. They want us to feel the stigma. They want us to feel little and small, and they want us to feel like our voice doesn't matter. And so why should we speak up? Because our voice doesn't matter. Well, our voices matter. That's what we need to remember. So if you don't have $1 to give, or $5, if that's the minimum on GiveSendGo, then use your voice, because that is just as big. If everybody speaks up, then we will make change. Changes will happen. Everybody, please support Kelsey. Do your research, understand what you're talking about, and debate intelligently and respectfully with other people, because that is the way that we will make a difference. And I'm praying for Kelsey. If you are a believer, please pray for her. If you're not, light a candle, throw some incense, stir a cauldron, whatever it is you do, rub a furless cat. But Lauren, do what you got to do. But in all seriousness, Kelsey needs us in whatever way that you are able to give. So give in that way. And that's all that we want from you. So thank you.
Claudia, thank you so much. And Lauren, your final thoughts as we close up tonight's show?
Yeah, I mean, I just echo my co-panelists, what they've said. Kelsey needs us. The only way that we can't take her charges away, but we can help prepare her for her defense fund. She has 3 attorneys. Who knows if there's more to come? She has a very big fight ahead of her. And if we can provide her in any help, whether it be financially, emotionally, spiritually, then, that's what this life is all about, is giving to others and helping others. And so pray. I know they're big on God. So if you can pray, give a prayer for her, donate if you can. That's, ultimately what our goal is here tonight, but also just retweet stuff, like that goes a long way. Tomorrow at work, can you have a conversation with maybe a coworker about this case, about something? And this case is enough to outrage anyone, and they will go home and they will research it. I can't even tell you how many times I wore like my Free Karen Reed shirt and now my Kelsey shirt. People ask, who is that? And I tell them, and I give them just a brief thing. And then they're like, I'm going to look that up. Well, that's a new person that now has that information and is more than likely going to be outraged by what they read and what they take in, and can join the Facebook group. So just be like, thoughtful of how you can share it, because that goes a long way too. Kelsey, like, we love you, we support you, we believe you, and we can't wait for your truth to come out and for you to get your baby back and for the right thing to actually happen. And, like Melanie Little says all the time, Karma knows your address. And I know that's hard to remember, but it is true, and you're going to be justified, and you're going to have your baby back soon.
She will.
Amen. Lori Mullen, thank you so much. Claudia King, thank you so much. And Lauren Katie, I thank all 3 of you so much. I cannot thank you how much, express how much I'm grateful for your time tonight on this program to help me out, to help us all, help Kelsey. Greatly appreciate your all various levels of expertise, from legal to police to private investigation. And I just thank you guys all for your time tonight. And I hope you have a great day. And if you're rooting for the Patriots, I hope you are in the Super Bowl.
Yes. Thank you, Mazza. Like, thank you for leading this awesome support system for Kelsey. Like, you've been such a great example. So just thank you again for putting on another amazing fundraiser. And
thank you so much, Lauren. Absolutely. We'll be in touch, of course, as always, for our next one, because there will be more.
Yes, there will. And I want to have another one as well. So we're going to keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Keep at it. Exactly.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Excellent. Bye. Thank you all. You have a good night. And then I'm going to stick with the audience for just a few more minutes here. And then I'll just pull Claudia and Lori from the show here. All right, and then we're all set. All right, good. All right, we'll wrap up the show really quickly here. Just a great show tonight. Another great fundraiser. that we were able to put on for Kelsey. I'm going to let the counting go on for just a little while longer. What I start to do now is I let it go for about an extra 20 minutes after the show goes off the air. Yeah, the total for the night is presently, I'm on the wrong screen, 1,670. All right. So what I'm gonna do is there's usually people that watch. What I've learned over the years doing these fundraisers is usually donations come in like within the next 20 minutes following when the live ends, because there's people that are watching it from behind. So I like to just give it that time just to add to the total. So we'll call that 1670 live. And then what I'll do is I'll check the time. Yeah, let it go till midnight and catch the replay. I can always do that too. And then just come back at midnight and check the total exactly. Because yeah, I think the last show we did, I think we were at 4,100. Then I found out $200 came in, and it was actually 4,300. So we left the show thinking we didn't break the record, but we did. We didn't even realize we did. And then all of a sudden, like 20 minutes later, it's like, wait a second, we broke the record. I didn't want to, I wanted to kind of break the record, obviously. So I'm like, oh, we're counting it. So now I kind of just let it roll for like 20 something minutes at least. So we'll let it roll, and then I'll put a final number out soon. Maybe I'll let it go till midnight. I'm not sure yet. I'm worried about if I don't record it now, I might forget. So you know what I'll do is I'll leave it at, you know what I can do? Yeah, it's like I already have the numbers here. I already have it written down. 72,188 is the total. So we got that. So we're good there. I'll let this roll for a little bit, then I'll come back. And Courtney says, you always bring in big donations, one of our biggest advocates. You're welcome, Courtney. And thank you for all you do. You do a great job. You're absolutely awesome. What you've done for Kelsey has been phenomenal. Thank you, Courtney. And yeah, we'll be good. The Pop and Popcorn store is still open. Looks like we got more donations. So it looks like another sale came in. So it's down to $18.40 to go. So let's see what we got for donations there. $18.40. So we got $179 in popcorn sales during the show, which is great. So that's another revenue, another revenue stream for Kelsey in terms of getting funds to her defense. So we got 179 there, plus the 1670 raised tonight. So that's good. All right, we'll be at this again. Usually go 2 weeks out. There'll be no fundraiser next week. It's going to be Super Bowl weekend. What I'm probably going to do is a Super Bowl show next week. And then Kelsey's hearing's the 9th. I may or may not be there. We'll see. I'm going to figure that out. And then after the 9th, my next show will be a Kelsey show. May even be a fundraiser. So next week would be the weekend of the 8th. So I usually go every other week for fundraisers. So probably the weekend of the 8th is the Super Bowl. Today's the 1st, the 8th, so the 15th. Maybe the 15th. Maybe the 15th will be the next fundraiser. I usually go every 2 weeks. So we'll think about the 15th for the next one. That'll be good because then we'll have the sometimes it's better to do the shows after information comes out. Like we had the footage to go over today. The show before that we had the what happened in court. And the next time we do it will be after the 9th when she's in court, so we can quantify what happened there, talk about that throughout the show, then do the fundraiser during the show. So that should be good. So why don't we do it that way? We'll do the 15th is the tentatively set date for the next fundraiser. And then we will, next week will be a Super Bowl show. And I don't know if I'm going to talk about anything else next week. I might talk about Karen. I think Karen Reed's back in court on the 3rd. So I may talk about Karen Reed stuff. And then I've reached out to someone you guys know about a Super Bowl show. You guys all know him. But yeah, we're going to probably do that next week. I'm not sure if that's going to be Saturday or if that's going to be Sunday. If I do it Sunday, it'll probably be noontime. Then once noontime comes and goes, I'm going to want to prepare the food for the afternoon and then get ready for the big Super Bowl, which I think the Patriots are going to win, by the way. So that should be good. And that's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe as well. Let me see how I'm doing for subscribers. I think I'm closing in on, I'm close to 13,500. I'm close to 13,600 subs. So if you guys want to subscribe to me, that'd be great. That way you guys, instead of a reminder as well, so you guys get notifications when I go live, and then we'll have future fundraisers for Kelsey. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves. stay warm. It's going to warm up this week. It's going to start to be in the 30s again, so it won't be frigid as it has been. That snow will start melting even more. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for MazzaMedia. Free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. The description of this video has her popcorn location, her popcorn store, or her GiveSendGo. It also has North Shore Nacho Night, which is tomorrow night at JJ Grimsby's at 6 o'clock. And there's other links in there as well for you guys, or Amazon Wishlist or Giftful Wishlist. Help her out in the best way you guys can. Have a great night from MazzaMedia. I am Mark. Free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.